And we would like to call the special meeting of City Council to order for Monday, September 13th. And today's special meeting is to deal with the permissive tax exemption policy and a number of delegations that have requested to meet with Council today. And so we're going to kick that off on our first delegations this morning. Is item 2.1 is the BC Grain Producers Association, and we have Jennifer Krichter and Sarah Perbushuski. I did that all right. The best. Well, so welcome. There's the delegation table, and you have 15 minutes in which to give Council your presentation, and we'll have time at the end for Council.
Would it be right if I remove
Yes, take your mask.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us. I'm really happy to be here and introduce ourselves and our organization. So I heard it was canceled out there, so we're just gonna.
Don't listen to him.
Okay. So the BC Grain Producers Association is a membership organization that represents grains and oilseed producers in the province of British Columbia, but predominantly in Northeast BC. So we represent about 250 producers, which covers about 350,000 acres. And 90% of the grains and oilseed that is grown in the province of British Columbia is grown in our area through our membership. A producer becomes a member by selling their grain, and then there is a levy or a checkoff taken off, and that goes into the Grain Industry Development Council, and then that money goes through us through funding, and that's how we administer our programs. In 2019, we went through a strategic plan, and we set our mission statement. The BC Grain Producers Association supports and connects grain producers by in BC providing a collective voice, information, and regionally relevant research. The purpose of the grain producers was set out by a group of producers in the Peace region to improve the viability of grains and oilseeds in our region. As we all know, the agriculture industry in this area is very unique to the rest of the country, just given our climatic conditions, as we've seen act out in the last 4 years. So the association also is governed by 8 directors. These 8 directors also sit on provincial and federal committees throughout Canada representing our region in the grains and oilseed sector. We've had previous members sit on the Grain Growers of Canada, the canola growers, and many different organizations. The current board of directors is Malcolm Odermatt, Ernest Weeb, myself, Jennifer Krichter, I'm the vice, gosh, I should have said that earlier. I'm the vice president of the organization. Malcolm couldn't be here, he would have liked to, but he's obviously farming right now. September 13th is kind of a busy time in our industry. So the other directors, they wish they could be here, but obviously given the circumstances. So Ernest Weeb is another director. Sarah, help me out if I miss anybody. Ed Hadland. Right now we're short 2 directors, just as we're going through a transition, which I'll get to. So the exemption that we are talking about today is about our research building that is located on 114th Ave in Dawson Creek. The building was built in the mid-2000s, and it was a purpose-built building for our small plot research program in Northeast BC. So we did variety trials just outside of town on the Rolla Road. So we did all sorts of research over a course of almost 2 decades. In the last couple of years, our research program was becoming less and less viable, just given the circumstances in agriculture, finding people, significant funding. So in January of this year, we actually made the decision to close down our small plot research program. It was a decision that was not taken lightly. However, we know that as the industry changes, we need to change with it. And so there was more and more demand for field scale research and the ability for producers to collaborate with one another. And so we're switching, we're in the process of pivoting our research to field scale research. And so the ability to have producers doing their own on-farm research, and then having other producers collaborate with that. This change also, you'll notice in our financial statements that we have not abundance of funds, but we have quite a pocket of money in our financial statements. That is because we have liquidated some assets from the small plot research program in the hopes that we're going to transition that money into our new field scale research program. Also, in some communication that we've done with our membership and the general public, there's more and more people who want to know where their food comes from, how their food is grown, and there needs to be more education of the public because we're getting less and less connected to people who have actually been on farms. So with that, we're looking for an advocacy component of our organization where we go and advocate for our producers, but as well as educate and bring those connections with farmers and the people that eat our food. So we're switching to that. And we did a feasibility study in the earlier part of this year where we hired a company to go out and see the feasibility of having a food hub, so to speak. I mean, it looks a little different in our area than it does maybe in the other parts of the province. But there is some opportunities for the transition of our building that we have in Dawson Creek to be used in a food hub model. What that looks like, we're still, obviously this decision was made in January, so we're just trying to transition into this, our new focus and what we can use our building for. That's really all I had. I don't want to take up too much of your time. It was more the opportunity just to get in front of you guys and introduce our organization again.
Thank you, Jennifer. And so with that, I'll turn it out to Council. If Council have any questions. Councillor Parslow.
So thank you. It's good to learn about your organization. So essentially what I'm understanding is this organization membership are private farms. Are there any corporate farms involved in your membership?
Well, there would be companies like farmers that act as corporations, but mostly they're family run.
There are some big farms around here.
Yes, well, I mean, we're 250 farms that are represented, and that's 360,000 acres. So yeah, there's some farms that are quite large, but predominantly most of the farms are family owned and operated.
Right. So explain why you need do you need a building for? I mean, how is it a laboratory? Is it set up with the laboratory equipment?
Yes. So when we did our small plot research, so there, Sarah would probably be better to answer that because she looked after our research department. But there were small plots that were what, 1 meter by 2 meter plots. Yes. So testing individual varieties and of individual crops, and so you have during the growing season you monitor different growth stages. Then once it's harvested, there would be moisture samples taken, grade samples, and then all those samples have to be analyzed. So I think there was 6,000 plots that we had at the time that we were doing the most plots. So you can imagine there's a lot of samples that need to go through. So our building in Dawson Creek was specifically built to be that laboratory and to look after those samples. So the choice to build the building in Dawson Creek was based on Dawson Creek has always been the center hub for agriculture in the Peace region. And so when the choice was made to build the building, it was a specifically built building, specifically built in Dawson Creek because Dawson Creek is the hub of the egg sector.
So you have research technicians then?
Yes, Sarah was our research technician, and she went through all those thousands of samples annually.
And that'll switch to large fields?
Yeah. So the way that the just the industry is going, by the time that the small plot data was coming out, it was coming out later in the year, and usually producers are already planning their crops and their varieties 2 or 3 years in advance already.
Yeah.
So the industry is changing to more of a large scale, and we have to change with it.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you. It's very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Council? Councillor Rober?
Can you? Oh, there. It wouldn't turn on earlier because I don't really need it. I just yell. Can you elaborate a little bit more? You're talking about turning it over to a food hub model. So does that look like for that building?
So the feasibility study that we completed was in partnership with the BC government to go and see what particular different models could work. So they looked at pea flour, they looked at a possible malting facility or a distillery, and then a flour mill. So they looked at kind of those top four things. There is some limitations to what can be done in our region just because of transportation. Only 1% of the product that is produced in our region actually goes for human consumption. Most of it is exported. Human consumption within the province. So they looked at it. There is some opportunities there. It's just whether there's the funding and the go-ahead to get it started. So if you guys are interested in seeing that study, I can forward it on to you guys. There is some interesting information just about the potential as more and more people want to have food that's sourced locally.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Javetkov?
You represent 250 producers. Do they pay a membership fee, or are they actual members?
So when you haul your grain, so like if you grow wheat, barley, oats, when you haul your grain into the elevator, there's a checkoff taken off your check, and then that checkoff goes into the Grain Industry Development Council, and then there's a board that distributes those funds, and because we are one of the few grains and oilseed organizations, then the money comes to us, and then we distribute throughout our different projects.
So are there farms that aren't part of your group?
If you sell grain, then you are automatically a member.
Oh, okay.
And then you can also buy a membership. So there's a $25 fee that you can pay. So like producers who don't sell into our grain system, like say in Vanderhoof, down in the lower,
Preston?
Yeah, Creston, exactly. They actually contact us, and then they buy a membership annually so that they have the benefits of our organization. So we do a lot. We communicate a lot with government, provincially and federally, through the different organizations we're affiliated, so that the membership gets them that, as well as there's just the information that we send out to our membership as well.
So do you have full-time employees or part-time employees?
Currently, we have 2 employees. Sarah looks after the administration of the organization. She was our research tech, and then with the closure of our research department, she graciously added this onto her title of administrative. So, and then we have another person who is spearheading the transition to the field scale research. So she's full time as well.
And you have operations in Fort St. John as well?
We have an office in Fort St. John as well.
And is that, do you own it and get a tax exemption on it, or?
No, we rent a small office
Okay.
space. It's just 3 offices that are just in Fort St. John.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions, Council? So I have a couple of points. First of all, thank you for coming this morning. It was nice to meet you guys and see you. And the small plot research on the Rolla Road, was that where it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wondered where it went, because I always enjoy driving by and seeing
Yeah.
it. And so thank you for that explanation. For Council's benefit, when we opened the, just as a little side note, when we opened the time capsule that was at the Centennial Pool, and it carried 50 different samples of seeds. And so I took them down to the office, to the, I think Will, was it Will?
Yeah.
And so we tried to get some of them to germinate, to look at the evolution of the seeds over that 50 years. And I think there was 50 different samples of seeds. And to me, that was really very interesting to see the evolution of the farming industry and the agriculture industry in our region, because some of the samples of them obviously are not even crops that are grown today.
Well, and a lot of those varieties wouldn't be grown because varieties change so
Yeah,
much.
and so it was really interesting for me to see that, and unfortunately, because the seeds were of such an age, they weren't able to, we couldn't get them to germinate, but it would have been fun to me to see them at the small plots, to be able to see
Oh, for sure.
the difference. So thank you for that. And so thank you for coming this morning. I don't see anything further. So the process we go through is council will hear from all of our delegations this morning, and then once once we're finished, we will go through mayor's business, where each of them will be, council will deliberate and make the decision. So that will happen later this morning.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming in this morning. It's very nice to meet you.
Yes, it was really nice to meet you all too. Thank you.
Very interesting. Obviously, it's very interesting to hear that your organization, very helpful.
Yeah, I feel like I forgot half of what I was going to say, but that's okay.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hello to your parents.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just a question to, I guess, administration here. Blair, there's just a question here. This form that's been here, I'm just wondering if every organization interpreted it, but I believe the grain growers interpreted it. Where there was no change, they didn't give any details. So look, I'm looking at section here as an example, okay? Let's just find it. I was reading it. So the question is changes in programs offered. I'm dealing with accessing it from the in-camera section of the agenda, where we have their application form filled out. And so the question, changes in programs offered, they ticked off no. Then it says, please provide details of other activities on your property, such as daycare, And the following is required for each activity. Hourly per day or days per week, free of charge or charge approximate number of participants. So it's blank. And in fairness to the delegation we just had, maybe they assumed that if there was no changes, they didn't need to fill it in. My expectation is that would have been on the form, and so I'm wondering if they've all done that. I'm not castigating the previous group. I'm just asking for clarification. It seems to be.
Through your worship, we will have to check that. We possibly could have asked them that question on their reason not to, but we will check from the last one and get back to you to see what I get what you're asking.
Yeah.
Was there a change or no change? We'll have to compare to the
And I think
last.
it's a possible inference that where there was no change, they didn't need to fill it in.
Yeah.
So I'm confused.
I think, and the other piece to this is, this is the first time for me in 7 or 8 years that we've had a process where we've had organizations come to present to us. I don't know if it happened prior, but I think to me it's very, very worthwhile just hearing the first one, to be able to hear the organization, about the organization, as we will be making that decision now for their future role in our policy. So, Councillor Earl?
I probably should have asked staff of this earlier, but it just occurred to me now. South Peace Child Development Center, my daughter is one of the people at their daycare. Would it be appropriate for me to step away for conflict? Is that... No? Not too worried?
Yeah. You're not going to benefit personally or otherwise
No,
as a result of the organization, right?
I just want to make sure if we're voting on a tax subsidy for them. So anyway, just wanted to make sure everything was above board.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So now we will, I see our next delegation is here, and so item 2.2, we have the South Peace Child Development Center, and Kim Hughes-Brinsky is here. Good morning, Kim. Welcome. Thank you for being here this morning. I'm going to turn your mic on, and you're good to go. We have 15 minutes allocated for the presentation, and then we've got another 10 at the end of it for questions for council of you. And so thank you for being here this morning. It's obviously a permissive tax exemption policy, and that's what we're dealing with. So the floor is yours.
Thanks. So thank you for having me. So my name is Kim Hughes-Brinsky, and I am the director at the South Peace Child Development Center. We are here on the tax exemption for the property of 9001 10th Street, which is right by Frank Ross School, just by Rotary Manor. I'm hoping everyone in the building sort of knows a little bit about us, but I'm going to give a bit of an overview of our organization. We're a fairly large organization, so hopefully I'm hitting on points that you maybe already know and maybe expand some knowledge on services that you didn't know we have. So we are a nonprofit, and we do have a charitable status number. We are operated by a board of directors. Our current board of directors chair is Shorty Smith, vice is Bill Dombrow, secretary is Jim Norquay, and treasurer is Margot Owens. We have been around since 1982. The center started in a church basement and then built the building that we're in now. It has expanded 3 times since it was originally built. There's a middle section, the front and the back. The 2 additions were done about the early to mid 90s. So our mission statement as far as who we are was redone about 3 years ago, so it's pretty accurate for us now. It's through family partnerships. We provide early intervention services, childhood education, and individual programs to enrich the lives of children and youth. The center employs 42 staff, and we have 12 casuals. So when I read through the application, the categories that we fit under are family services and skill development opportunities. I often smile that we could easily be called the parenting development center or the adult development center, because even though we're called the child development center, we know that the strength and the growth of a child lies in the parent. The kiddo just kind of comes along and is part of the package, but clearly we have all services to do with families and parents' capacity. We are primarily funded by 2 sources. One is the Ministry of Children and Family Development. That is our large one. And then we have 1 contract through Community Living BC. So I'm going to go through that in a little bit. We do have a membership at our society. It's not huge. It is a $5 fee. Anybody can join. Lots of our parents join. And then we have lots of long-time memberships for people that have been with us for years and have had investments with this center for a long time. So our primary population that we serve is 0 to school entry. That's kind of our main reason for being and servicing in the Dawson area. I'm going to give you a bit of overview as far as how many families we serve, just to kind of give you a dip into our world. So last year we served 561 families. What we know and what everybody knows now is early intervention is key. It is well-researched, strong evidence that if we can get into those little ones when they're really early, we know that we can shift and look towards them to being successful learners, ready for kindergarten, can respond to daily challenges and kind of move through that system in a much smoother path. Kiddos nowadays have lots going on in their lives. It's a busy time to be a little one, and so what we experience now is just the sort of the world that we originally started in, which would be that special needs, has really bloomed. I had a board member a number of years ago kind of say to me, like, where are all the kids like in wheelchairs, or where's all the kids with diagnosis? And we do have them, but the lion's share of our kids are kids that have, if they could just get a little bit of a bump, whether that be through speech therapy or occupational therapy, that sort of involvement of that level of intervention will place them in a really great way to get ready for school. We still have the complex kids. I pulled the stat before I came, and 21% of our kids are receiving 5 different services at our center. So if you're receiving 5 services, you're a pretty complex child, right? So that means you're probably getting all 3 therapists, probably infant development, and maybe supported child development. So if you're getting 5, that's complex. So that's about 21% for us. Because we're the only game in town for the pediatric services, if a child is born outside, which is maybe BC Children's or Stollery, when they come back to Dawson, it's us. So we do get those preemie babies. Lots come back even on a feeding tube. And because we're so north, the families are really looking for someone to hang on to them as they make this journey forward. We are not in the medical industry, so kids do need to be medically stable before they engage with us. So if a child is a failure to thrive just because of how things have evolved for them, that's kind of back to the medical profession. If they're stable and we've got some good movement, then definitely that's all us. But we do get really little ones now. Kids are born much earlier. I mean, they just make it. But unfortunately, when they come out, they're not quite done. So that's where we step in and work with those families on their developmental goals. I do say families and parents a lot because we do provide family-centered practice. So what that means is if you came to us and you have a young child, our first question is going to be, what's your goal for your child? We do not focus on the expert model. We try to make sure that we're walking that parenting path with the family. I often think we always laugh about this one case, and this family came in and their child was really busy, like bouncing and just going, and we're like, whoa, this child's really busy. And so we kind of pose that question to the parent, and the parent's like, oh yeah, it's exactly like my brother, or it's exactly like my husband. So for them, it's not really a concern. Our job is to make sure they realize what that might mean in the learning scenario, but we definitely march right along the path and ensure that where the parents' goals are for their child is kind of front and center. So how we accomplish that is everybody in our center has a family service plan, an individual family service plan. Sets the goals, we give the parent part, we give our part, we revisit it, and then we move through that intervention plan. The center is kind of set up in two different ways. We sort of have foundational skills, and then we have what we would call prescriptive. Foundation skills are those things like infant development. The child's at risk for a developmental delay or has a developmental delay. Another program would be our Building Blocks program, which is behind the high school, really focusing on parent capacity, foundational parent capacity. Then we start to move into what we would call prescriptive. That's physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. Those are kind of how and the building's almost divided if you've been in it. Like the one side of our building is kind of foundational skills, the other side of the building is kind of more of our prescriptive skills. Usually when a family comes in, they start with foundation, right? They start those core. Many of us are parents in the room, you know that, those core milestones that everybody's looking for. When does your child crawl? When do they talk? When do they walk? So those foundational skills that most people really are focused on at the beginning. If a child does not move along quickly enough in those foundationals, then we start to move more prescriptive, really more, maybe it's a session that happens every week with that child, or they attend a group, or they go to a block group of therapy. But it is done through an assessment by that therapist. They'll look at those results, try to figure out, where do you want to start, and then start the intervention plan. So there's kind of two different sides. On average, we receive about 400 referrals per year. It was definitely lower last year during COVID, so it actually gave us a chance to kind of catch up because we do have wait lists. Our referrals come primarily from families, which for us that's a real feather in our hat, that parents know there's a concern and know where to go. That's amazing. We receive a large number from public health. So immunization now, kind of more important than ever, but kids that have their immunization, public health will do a screen. It's called an ASQ, an Ages and Stages questionnaire. From that screen, things get highlighted, they refer up to us. So public health is a big one, but we do see a lot from physicians and we see a lot from hospitals, whether it be Prince George, Vancouver, and actually we do see quite a bit from Alberta as well. So this past year, we had 261. So that's kind of COVID, because I don't think anybody really moved around too much. So, which in some ways for our profession was the good little silver lining for COVID, because parents really engage with their kids. And for some of our kids, that's really what they need, is just to have those really hands-on and really tight instead of, being in lots and lots of activities when they're little. So again, sort of the foundationals and the prescriptive is kind of how we work. Some of our programs do come with a criteria, and that's the programs that kids stay with us till they're 19. So for us, that's a criteria through the Ministry of Children and Family Development. If you're a child with special needs identified by the ministry, that means you have autism, you have CP, you have Down syndrome, you have a diagnosis that will be with you for your life. So those kids we hang on to all the way to 19. Mm-hmm. Everybody else shifts from us at school entry to Ministry of Education. But we hang on to what we call CYSN, Child and Youth with Special Needs. We hang on to those kids all the way to 19. So for us, it's two programs. It's respite, pretty basic, break for the family. And I always try to caveat that sometimes it's not a break from the child, but it's a break because lots of those families have other kids. And so you can only imagine if you have a child with special needs, how much work and attention that child gets. So for us, respite for lots of families is be able to spend one-on-one time with their other children, which is obviously really key. Life skills for us is just a super great program. It's run out of the Ron Pettigrew School. It just dips into all kinds of stuff: art, sports, Dungeons and Dragons, drones, remote control cars. Like, it's just a really dynamic program in there, and that carries through all the way to 19 years of age. We at the Child Development Center have one little odd anomaly program that is an adult residence. It's funded by the Community Living, British Columbia Community Living Association, and it is 2 men, been roommates for 25 years, been with the Child Development Center their whole life. Parents kind of dug the dirt at the Child Development Center, so it's just a really feel-good story that these families have been engaged with us for 50 years, and these 2 men are still with us. So we have this one odd little program, which kind of takes us from pediatric to geriatric, which has its challenges, but we're sticking it out there. Couple community programs. Lots of people in Dawson know us as the center that has preschool, and we've had preschool for decades. 200 kids come for preschool. This past year, we did have a shift, and this September we closed one of our preschools and we opened a daycare. So that's a huge shift for us, that we've always done preschool for such a long time. Lots of preschools out there now. We don't need to compete. We need to just have other services. So we stuck it out with our preschool last year. Not the best management decision on my behalf, because we lost about 17,000 due to COVID. Just parents had a really hard time with no parents in the building, but we still wanted to offer the service, so we kind of stuck it out. So that was a bad hit for us, but we're on the rebound, and our preschool is full, and then we did open a licensed daycare in September for the first time. Okay, so I am going to get to finances. I'm just going to tell you one more thing, and I'm going to talk finances. I just want to let you know that we do have and are fully accredited. We are accredited through CARF. CARF stands for the Commission of Accreditation for Rehabilitation Facilities. We've been accredited since 2004, and we just did our last accreditation in February 2021. We did it virtually, which was okay. It was really different, but we managed. We did well. There's about 450 standards that we have to meet, and we got about 98%, so we've got a little bit of work to do, but we've been around a long time, so we're a pretty oiled machine, and have good success. So I wanted to highlight a really nice passage that the CARF team said to us on our discharge. One of the statements was this: the impressive heart and health of the SPCDC is reflected in their wonderful, caring, and compassionate workforce. SPCDC is commended for its impressive manner, for which its mission, values, and work practices are aligned effectively to meet the client's needs. So we're just really proud of that. Oh, yellow card. Okay. So, it's like in hockey, the big yellow card. Okay, I'm going to switch to finances. I know the finances are in front of you. I want to highlight a couple things. Yes, we're funded fully. Yes, we're nonprofit. Even though we'd run a licensed facility of a preschool and a daycare, we run them as a nonprofit. There's very little money in that world. When you're a unionized shop, it just doesn't work that way. You will see that we have money in the bank. I will tell you, in 2019, the report that you're looking at, the board of directors made the decision that the building that we're in is going to stay our building. For the longest time, decades, we were unsure if the building was going to make it. And a lot of that came from the closure of our swimming pool. Some might remember that we closed our swimming pool. So that sort of opened up different opportunities. Do we stay in this building? Do we shift? What are we doing? A couple things really made us the decision easy. The first one was Nowkin bought the building and Networks bought a building. So that sort of for us really shifted this hope of this sort of wraparound hub services. That then said to us, we're keeping our building, we just got to renovate it. So since about 2019, that pot of money that you see on the financial starts the renovation of our building. So I kind of made a quick summary of what we've done so far. We did upgrade our boilers. We did some cosmetics. So if you've been in the building, it hasn't changed too much. It still was peach. So we said, okay, we got to kind of get up with the time. So we changed carpeting, peach. The big one, which is happening right now, for some of you who have been in our building, we're doing our HVAC system, and it's massive. I hope the final number is about 350,000. I think it might edge closer to 4. Everything just keeps going up for pricing. So the funding that we're looking at that sort of looks like there's money available that's really what we're doing now. Is originally we're like, where do we, because we looked at the Ron Pettigrew School, we thought about that building, and in the end, the decision was made to stay where we are. It's a great location. We're on a bus route. It's got lots of positives, and so now we're starting that path of upgrading that building. So once the HVAC system is done, will be a huge check mark. We were still relying on 1982. So really needed to bring that up. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that point, that is sort of what you might see in the financials. The other part for sure is we are a recipient of fundraised dollars. We're the recipient of donations. We've received many, many in the past. Some small, from a memorial to larger ones, whether it be from Spectra or Lakeview Credit Union. Like, we've received donations for sure in the past. But our primary source, our foundational money, comes from Ministry of Children and Families and CLBC, which is what we operate for them as a service in the South Piece. We haven't been able to do our fundraiser for a couple of years just due to COVID, and we're not too sure where we're going to shift with it, but we do need to start because we need to be relevant again in the fundraise world. There are large organizations out there that need a lot of money, and I look at Networks as a huge organization that has drawn a lot of funds, and rightfully so. They have a fantastic building. I'm going to stop because I got the red card. I'm open to questions, and I hope you have learned a little bit about the CDC, and I'll let you ask questions.
So thank you so much. We learned more than a little bit.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow.
You stated that the Life Skills program is offered at Ron Pettigrew. That must have been a recent move. Is that correct?
It was. We were in a 2-bedroom apartment just down from the high school for decades. And we moved there, even though the building was in a flux. We moved in the September they closed the school. So what is that, 2 years ago now? 3 years ago? Yeah, so just recently. Fantastic location for us.
Yeah, thank you.
Council? We are very, very lucky in Dawson Creek to have people like you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a massive team behind me.
Well,
Massive.
the passion for youth
Yeah.
is evident, and thank you so much for coming this morning. And Councillor Parslow, or Javetkov, sorry, go ahead.
So the people that come there, the families, is there a fee? Do you charge them, or it's all free?
It is free except for our licensed preschool and our daycare.
Oh, yeah.
Everything else is free.
Right
You
on.
bet. Yeah, good question. I always assume that. People, yeah, but it's free. Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Kim, thank you so much for being here this morning. So council will hear from our delegations, everyone this morning that have asked to present, and then as we get into later in the agenda under Mayor's business, decisions will be made at that point in terms of the application to the permissive tax policy for 2022.
Excellent.
Thank you for coming this morning.
Have a
Great job.
morning. Bye now.
So good morning. Alisna, it's nice to see you. And so this next delegation this morning is the Dawson Creek Community Christian Education Society, the Ron Pettigrew facility, Christian school. And this morning we have Alisna Bredenkamp and Brenda Wilson are here to do a presentation. And so welcome, good morning. We have 15 minutes allocated to each delegation this morning, and then at the end of your presentation, we have time allocated for council for anyone that has questions. So good morning, welcome, it's nice to see you again.
Thank you. I don't know, is this where to be or should it be
It's
closer?
ready to go.
Okay, good. Well, thank you so much for you guys for giving us the opportunity to come today. I know you have a lot of meetings sitting here today, so thank you. We appreciate your time. I'm, as your cousin Brenda, is here today on behalf of representing Dawson Creek Community Christian Education Society, which is who owns Ron Pettigrew building. Things has changed, as lots of you guys have known for us. So in 2019, in August, we decided to close the school due to various reasons that we won't go into today. But due to that school foreclosure, we don't receive grant money anymore from the government because you have to have kids in school. and we also don't have tuition anymore coming in. So all of that kind of like down the road got us into a process of foreclosure. So we are currently in foreclosure. So at that time, with the foreclosure which came through in September 2020, as a society, and even before then, and we decided we could dissolve as a society, but that didn't feel right to us to do that. For many reasons. One is obviously to sell the building. It's a nice facility, and then also at that time, prior to when the school was running, we did have renters there, and they were still there, and so we kind of thought like we don't want to left them hanging because they're providing also a service to our community here too. So we decided, and it still feels right for us to continue until the building sells. So currently, it's not a school, so it's like a kind of like, I guess we're renting out our facility to the community. So we do have the main kind of long-term renters that we do have is early child kind of not education but early child care. So we have a preschool there that's been there with us since even before the school closed, and then we also now have 2 daycares in there, and we also have the Child Development Center, which was this year before us, and they rent for their life skills program that's after school. They use our facility. They used to go out in the community and have to use and kind of go, but now the facility is providing so much opportunity for them to do enlarge their kind of program and do lots of the things kind of at the school with the gym and those kind of things. We're also renting the gym out to nonprofit organizations like our volleyball clubs here in Dawson and the basketball clubs, and also the indoor soccer has been using our facility. Last year especially, it was really good during COVID, especially I talked to Aaron Powell, and he said like for volleyball they couldn't rent anywhere else and couldn't go anywhere else, and due to us not being a school anymore, we could open our facility to them. And then he mentioned to me, which was kind of made me feel, I don't think I mentioned that to Brenda, but made us a little bit worth us sticking around, because he said about 7 girls got scholarship this last year for volleyball, which is really great. And then one girl, I think she's 15 years old, got into Team BC, and she's currently, I think, going to Vancouver every few months, kind of in that continued Team BC program, and so she's with the top 20 girls in the province there. So that's really neat. And I thought, and it's in a tough year that has happened, and lots of other places didn't have that opportunity to do so. That kind of made us, a little bit heartwarming to have been involved in that. So that was good. So we do, I know with our application, we provided our financials to you guys, which was year end, I think June 30, 2020. Those financials also still covered, because part of that.
In 19.
Yeah.
Year in 19.
Yes, and that was still cover. We still got grant money that year coming in, and we still had wages to be paid, and then we closed the school shortly after that. But currently we don't have any paid staff, no wages, no benefits. We're just running it by 4 volunteers at the moment. And we still have, as a nonprofit organization, we haven't lost that status as well. So that's kind of, we're just kind of like the main reason we did continue renters staff is to pay utilities. We're not trying to bank money. Our rates is not expensive to push people away, especially for the gym and the sports people in our community. And I do believe even with the childcare and things, that it's so nice that there's so many different childcare facilities, because that's also a very big need here in the community is for daycares. For suppose working moms and even last year too, I think Lacey's Little's preschool opened her preschool for daycare over the summer, and just because she could have this in the space and the time. So that's kind of the reason we are here today, I guess, and to just tell you guys what's happening. I know there's lots of changes with the school, and we lost, as a school, we used to be exempt from taxes, and it's a little different now. So I thank you guys for listening to us today, and I maybe pass it Brenda. I don't know if you have anything to add or ask.
Well, I think probably like all the others you've heard, basically our income covers our expenses for utilities and that sort of thing. Like basically, we're an in-out organization financially. Just trying to stay afloat. That's basically what we're doing at this time, because that building is too beautiful to have it deteriorate until it sells, and it's too useful for community functions to not have it open. So we'll just carry on as long as we can.
Thank you. So I'll throw it to council. Questions? Councillor Parslow?
Two questions. But as a side comment, it's great that these organizations have a place to use. So what percentage of the building is currently unused?
So that has changed in the last 3 months pretty significantly, because we used to have only 2 renters, so 2 classrooms, till about, well, I would say, they'd say up until 3 months ago, 3 classrooms has been utilized by renters, and then they would use the gym and the playground as kind of part of their, that they can use too. But now in the last 3 months, we actually did get 1 more daycare facility in there, and then also the dance company is like within the last 2 weeks came aboard with us. So now there's only 3 classrooms vacant at this moment. Actually 4, 1 daycare looking to expand to a multi-age daycare. So we'll just see if that's happening. So actually then it's 5 classrooms out of 12 is vacant.
And the gym is used as well?
The gym is used for sports during night, using evenings, yeah.
Right. So does the society, what's the long-term plans of the society for this building?
Well, some of it's not in our hands. It's to sell. It's going to be sold. And when it's sold, we will, as a society, dissolve.
I see.
Yeah, and then whatever is, if there is any money, we'll give it to a non-profit organization ourselves. So our plan is just to maintain the building and support the renters as much as we can till we can't. And some of it might happen sooner or later, we don't know. The building has been for sale for the last 2 years. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councillor Jawetkov?
So if it's foreclosed, so our RBC looks after it.
No, it's kind of, it's an interesting situation. We thought that would happen, that they would take over, but we still have ownership and title to the grounds in the building and things. So, and basically they put like for sale, so if it sells, it will go towards them. But we are still managing the building basically for them in a way, which is a really good deal for them. So we are doing in a way, and they're not involved at all. Yeah, which is a very strange. It's different in a house.
I'm just wondering if you did have a tax exemption, it's really RBC that would benefit, or like they would be responsible for paying the taxes if the building is in foreclosure.
That's what I would think. We don't really know. We don't.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But that is probably, like, if the building sells, it will be the seller's responsibility, or that will be for them benefit for sure.
Yeah.
So we don't know how long this would be, and for us, I mean, if it's another 2 years, we don't have much of an income. Like, I think our income at the moment, rent is like around 6,700 and a month, and then so we don't. Yeah, so, but it would definitely be more on RBC later, for sure.
So just another question, the rent that you charge for the users in there, is it a reduced rent, or is it competitive with other private buildings, or?
It is, because if you look at commercial sized buildings, it's probably more reduced, just the size of the facility, and they have be able to use the playground and the gym as well. And then if they want to, usually, like one of them, if they want to use another classroom, we give them a 20% reduced rate to be able to expand if they wanted to. And yeah, I think it's it's not competitive. I think it's much more affordable and cheaper than commercial.
So for the maintenance, obviously there's janitorial work. Is that what the volunteers are doing?
We used to do it, we just couldn't keep up with it anymore. So we used to do it, and then we had one day janitorial, and the renters would help and take some help as well, and we would too. And now we actually, with the new renters coming in, we upped it to 2 days. The other big expense that we also have is insurance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, council? So I've been through the building a few times the last few months, and thank you for that. And you're right, it's a beautiful building. It's a beautiful facility for our community, and we appreciate what you guys have done to try to keep it viable and alive in the community, and thank you for that. So council will hear from the delegations this morning, and then at the end of the day today, we'll go back through mayor's business, and council will deliberate on each of the requests at that time.
Sounds good.
Thank you for coming in this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
And 52. We're doing amazing for time. Do you want to take a quick 10-minute break?
7 minutes first.
We'll take a 7-minute recess until Jacqueline's here as our next. To order, and our next delegation this morning on item 2.4 is Network Ministries from Dawson Creek. And our presenter is Jacqueline Jansen. So good morning, Jacqueline. If you can take the delegation table, and we have 15 minutes allocated for each presentation this morning, and then at the end of your presentation, we've got some time set aside for council to ask any questions they may have of you. And so with that, we'll pass it over to you, and the floor is yours. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I dropped my grandson off that we're raising about 15 minutes ago at school, who was refusing to go to school. So if I'm a little distracted, it's because I'm still mad at him. So. Anyways, so when I was thinking about this morning, and I woke up and I thought, you know what, you guys are all familiar with what we do. Everybody here is familiar with what we do, and so I thought I would actually focus this morning a little bit on not what you already know, but maybe some of the things that you don't know. So I'll give you some statistics first, but then I'm going to talk about some of the other things and how, even being in our new location, how that's changed stuff for us. So currently this year, as of today, we've given out $71,220 worth of food. I can tell you that by my statistics, because we run off the point program. I can also tell you that we have served people with food services 2,384 times this year. Okay, but that doesn't include our social work services. So what you might not know is that I actually have a registered social worker now on staff. So to give you a little picture of what that looks like, our hospital is supposed to have 5 social workers. And those social workers are tied to whatever program they're tied to. So if you're on psych, there should be a psychiatric social worker available to you. This social worker is not tied to any particular team. This social worker is available to the community, and we fundraise for her wages. We're not funded for her. So that means that anybody in Dawson Creek who needs help getting onto disability, or needs help accessing different government programs, or needs advocacy, or needs somebody to help set up medical travel, the social worker is available to them regardless of income. So, and we're busy. She's busy. And because the Dawson Creek Hospital is supposed to have 5 social workers, and they currently only have 1, we're now actually picking up the Dawson Creek Hospital gaps for social work. We really need some social workers in this community. It also, the statistics I just gave you doesn't include the work that we're also doing with ICMT. And if you're not familiar with the ICMT program, ICMT is the Intensive Case Management Program for Dawson Creek Hospital. And they're our street workers. They're the ones that go, and we're finding the people who are struggling with the hard drugs and addiction stuff. There are people who are mentally ill that haven't been maybe accessing services yet. They might be new to the community and homeless. And so because people who are sort of living that lifestyle don't like going to the hospital because they feel pretty judged. They don't really feel like they fit so much, right? So now ICMT is working out of our building. So that means that when somebody new to the community comes into the community and they go to somebody down on the street and they say, hey, where can I get help in Dawson Creek? They get told, go to Networks Ministries, right? As soon as I sit down and I do an intake with them, on the intake, it's a very low barrier intake. You can tell me whatever you want to tell me, and whether it's true or not, I'm still going to give you services, right? But on there it says, do you have an addiction problem? And then, would you like help with that? And so if they write, yes, I have an addiction problem, then I can say, okay, so what are you using? Well, I'm using crystal meth, or I'm using heroin, or whatever I'm doing. I say, okay, so do you want some help with that? I can tell you that nobody who is using those drugs in Dawson Creek wants to be using those drugs. They all say, yeah, I want help with this. There's nobody who says, no, you know what? I'm happy to be hooked. Nobody is happy to be hooked. Right? So that means that I can say, you know what, I actually have a mental health and addictions team right here in my building, and we can start that whole process for you right now. And if they allow me, give me permission to invite our team in, that means that I can bring Jill, the addiction specialist, in, and we can start right now that process of getting you off to treatment. Right? If you have a mental health issue and I can see you have a mental health issue and maybe you're not undiagnosed, then I can say, hey, you know what? You're looking like you're not doing so well today. Can I bring somebody in just to give a second opinion, because I'm worried about you? That means I can bring a psychiatric nurse right into my office within 15 minutes of them walking into my building. And we can do a psychiatric evaluation and find out if you need to go see a psychiatrist, if you need to go on to into the hospital, or if we just need to do some monitoring with you and working with you, right? That's huge for our people. Absolutely huge for our people. That means that new people that are coming into the community are getting access to services right away before it becomes a problem within the community, right? And so that's a really, really big one. And one of the great unfortunate statistics that I can't give you is when we do interventions that quickly in somebody's life, what are the crimes that aren't being committed, right? Or what are the assaults that aren't happening, or what are all the different problems that we're mitigating before they come in? I can't tell you what impact that has in our community, but I can tell you that last week I think I did 17 new intakes, and probably about 3/4 of them got connected to mental health services, right? And so that's huge. Now, Northern Health does not pay us to have them in our building, so we're not making a profit off of these guys. What we're doing is we're utilizing their vocational rehabilitation program, which is many of their people who are living with mental health that are trying to make a little bit of extra income, so they're working through the Moose program. So in exchange for us giving them space, their folks with the Moose program are coming in and cleaning our building and doing our snow removal. Right? So that gives them also a super safe place because they know me, right? And so they're really comfortable in our space. They wander around, we tease them, we play with them, we have a great time with them. But they feel safe working there, and even if they're having an off day, it's okay. It's a safe place for them to work. Some of the work, or some of those statistics don't include the gymnasium, so we are doing some rentals to club volleyball. We really want to keep the gymnasium over there available to the community. It's not something that we want to hoard and say we have this gymnasium. The whole purpose of us buying this building was to make sure that that space stayed available to the community. So right now, we've had a few days of elections happening. I've never seen so many people in my building ever. It's been quite wild. But anyways, we want to keep that gym for the community. One of the things that I was hoping to do, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it with COVID this year, I'll have to cancel it, is I wanted to do a service providers fair so that all the service providers could come down just like a craft sale or whatever, where everybody sets up a table and we get to learn what each other does so that we can work more efficiently as a community in providing services to the members in our community. I think that's not going to work this year, but it certainly is going to be a goal next year, and that would be something that we would invite everybody from City Council to come and participate in and be a part of, to see what is all happening in our community so that we're all super duper aware. It doesn't include what's going on in the makerspace, so we're slowly launching the makerspace. So this last weekend, I did a stained glass class. I had a 9-year-old little girl who is building a little fox out of stained glass and cutting glass and breaking glass, and her mom came along to help her. I had a lady who has schizophrenia, and she made a really simple little sailboat, and she was so proud of her little efforts. And there was a few other people that came in that, were people that, one was a teacher, and another lady, I don't know what she did, but whatever. So it's not just serving just the low income. It's providing opportunities for children and for anybody. You could come and learn how to do stained glass or woodworking. So we're just getting our woodworking stuff happening. We have now gotten a grant so that we can get the dust collection system in, and then we can teach people how to do things like go out and get some spalted, rotten trees out of the forest and turn them into a bandsaw box. That's beautiful because the rot lines will go all the way around that little box, and we can do things like that. And creating that creative space where we're bringing also people that are coming out of poverty or leaving their difficult lifestyles into the makerspace so that they have opportunities to do things other than addictions and problems. It doesn't include the time that we spend going to court with people. I'm in court constantly. I'm friends with all the judges, all the lawyers, everybody knows who I am, because I'm going there and I'm supporting individuals who are afraid to go to court. They've made mistakes and they just need somebody to come alongside and tell them the parts that they did right. Last week we had 2 people on our program, one who went to Vancouver and one who went to Kelowna for medical travel. So we set everything up with the ministry to make sure that all their expenses and everything were paid. That was part of our social work services. However, with the long weekend, unfortunately, neither of our clients got any money that was supposed to be deposited into their account for their cab rides and different things like that. And so all throughout the week and over the weekend, we have been in contact with these individuals, making sure that they got everything that they needed. The one that was in Kelowna had no food. He had only 2 meal replacements that he brought with him, and he had no money. So I ended up having my daughter drive down and bring him some homemade chili and some things so that he could, be down there and be able to get his medical procedure done. So we're really boots on the ground. It also doesn't include the child protection stuff that we're going through. So we have families who get investigated for different reasons, and sometimes they're warranted and sometimes they're not warranted. But at the end of the day, having somebody come into your house and say, we're looking at removing your children, or we're concerned about your parenting, is a terrifying thing for a parent. And so we're constantly involved in those child protection investigations, and we're supporting the parent. We're explaining to the parent so that there's the least amount of trauma to those parents who are going through those things. And sometimes, children need to be removed, and that's difficult. But making sure that our families are the least traumatized, the most intact, and most informed of the processes that they're in, that's part of what we do, and that's not part of our earlier statistics. In this last year, as far as poverty is concerned, we've served 594 families in the last 12 months. This is good for us to know, right? Because how many people in our community are struggling, right? It also represents 939 people, so almost 1,000 people that have accessed food bank services. So we do have a poverty problem in Dawson Creek. We don't like to think we do, and quite often it's quite invisible. We're also the people who, when some of our lower income families or whoever loses somebody to a drug overdose, we're the ones who take the entire family, we bring them into our free store, we let them pick out clothes for their funerals so that they can grieve their losses, right? We're the ones that are there. We're the ones who help people get to doctors. We're the ones who go into those meetings with them to make sure that they're heard. We're also the ones who, when somebody decides to leave that drug culture, we're the ones supporting them. And sometimes what it looks like is that somebody says, you know what, that's it, I'm done, I'm not doing any more meth. We put them up in a hotel for a few days where they start to detox. We're monitoring them with ICMT while they're detoxing. And then one day, there's a knock on the hotel room door and one of their friends comes in and says, hey, you know what, I have something I need you to do. And they're going, nope, I'm out. I'm not doing it, I'm not doing this anymore. And that friend says to them, you know what, you don't get to leave, and takes them out somewhere and beats them half to death, and then drops them off in front of McDonald's out in the middle of the road there. And they come crawling in when I'm showing up at work at 7 in the morning, beat from head to toe, and I say, man, you gotta go to the hospital. And they go, I don't wanna go to the hospital. So then I phone my nurses from ICMT, and they come and do a medical evaluation. And that's kind of what it looks like for us, and that probably sounds in lots of ways really, really extreme, but it's what it looks like. We love our people. We never, ever have any problems with our people other than one or two, and they only usually have problems with us once or twice, and then I make them go and apologize to everybody they just offended, and then they realize that Jackie's a little grumpy sometimes too, right? And they're good. So, you know, they come to us when they're in trouble. They trust us, and we're their people. So that's kind of a little bit of what I have to say. It's not a lot, but it kind of is, right? So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie. So with that, I'll turn it out to council for any questions. Councillor Parslow.
Thank you. I've appreciated learning more about what you're doing. I appreciated what I did know, but I appreciate even more so now. A couple of things. One, just short questions, really. So Dawson Creek Hospital and social workers, that grabbed my attention. Is it they are trying to save money by not hiring it, or the people not available?
There's not people available. I have heard rumors, which are merely those, and part of it is what I've heard is that we need to have more effort into recruiting for our area.
Okay.
Right?
Now, the program, Network Ministries, is filling a big shoe from point of view of supporting people. How are the churches involved with this? Are they helping in any way? I say other churches because, of course, this originally, you were housed at the Bethel Church there. Now you have this former O'Brien Elementary School. But is there any linkages with programs, the Salvation Army or the St. Mark's Soup Kitchen or what have you? Could you share some information on that?
Yeah. So we are mostly linked with Bethel in that people who sit on our board have to be adherents of Bethel Church.
Okay.
Just to kind of keep it so that there's one governing kind of controls there. So we work with Salvation Army. We also work with St. Mark's. So one of the things that we do is we do a food recovery program. So every morning we pick up from the grocery stores food that is perishable. And we bring that over to our place. We sort it out. We take the food that we're able to give out, and we put that into the food bank, and then food that is just, doesn't look good or we can't hand out or whatever. We have farmers that come and pick up our unused food at the end of the day. We split the food that we receive from the grocery stores. So originally, it's a program called Loop. Originally, Loop had come to us and said, we want you to be the recipients of this food. And we said, it's a lot of food. Can we split it with St. Mark's? So the churches will financially support us. So sometimes we get donations throughout the year. Most of our funding comes through fundraising or grant writing. Our community has been very good at supporting us and financially. That said, we kind of are doing our daily bread thing every day, right? It's like, okay, yeah, we made payroll this week. That's awesome, and we got the hydro paid right on, different things like that. So, so we always have just enough, right? But our connection to the churches is the churches support us. Our volunteers are anybody from somebody who's a Baptist or Presbyterian to somebody who has connections to a gang. So anybody who comes in, basically, if you come in and you have muscles, I'm going to get you moving something, and you're a volunteer now. And we really, really work like that. Our volunteers come from anywhere and everywhere. They're everyone from youth right on up to seniors.
Thank you. Further questions, Councillor Giacomo?
So how many employees do you have?
So we currently are employing my social worker for 4 days a week. We're employing Vivian, who will be presenting for Heritage Heights here in a bit. She's my administrator. I have 2 days a week, or 2 mornings a week, a bookkeeper, and myself.
And would you have a number of how many volunteers you have?
It's always changing. The last time we tracked actual hours, which would have been pre-pandemic, we had 117 volunteers putting in over 8,000 hours. With the pandemic, that has gone down quite a bit. Typically, we'll have 13 or 14 volunteers in a day.
So when you're offering these services like that ICMC, do you get a fee for that from anyone, or?
No,
And the clients don't pay anything?
nobody pays a thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, Council?
Just one
Go
more.
ahead, Councillor Giacomo.
You're a registered charitable organization?
Yes, we are. Yes.
Thank you. So you've come a long way. You've come a
We
long
have.
way. And I remember when you kicked this door open at the Bethel with the store and all the services that you had, the excitement in your eye, and you've come a very long way, and to the benefit of our community. And so thank you for that. Thank you for the passion for our community and for those people who need that hand up.
And I would return that with, I know everyone here, and I've always felt your guys' support. And so I would say thank you, because I feel like you guys definitely are on our team. And so we appreciate that, so.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Sure, I just want to add to the thank you. So something Jacqueline didn't mention, but I know they offer the service, and I know we refer a lot of people from Aubert, is the ability to have a shower. So when you're homeless and you're trying to get life on track and find a job and maybe attending some courses with us, having access to a shower and clean clothes is important. So thank you for that. But also I want to say thank you to you for picking up the pieces and filling the gaps that have been missing in the community. So as much as we're working towards that and working with those higher powers, you've taken the initiative and filled a lot of gaps in our community, and our families wouldn't be as strong as they are that are utilizing your services if you hadn't. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
So we will hear from the delegations this morning, Jacqueline, and then later at the conclusion of that, under Mayor's business, each of the requests will be decided by council, and that'll be done today. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
All right.
So our next delegation, item 2.5, we have the Bethel Senior Citizens Housing Society, and we have Vivian Vivian is here, and Roy. So good morning, welcome. Thank you for being here this morning, and we have 15 minutes allocated for each delegation this morning to give a presentation and overview of the organization, and your delivery today will be on that, and at the end of it, we'll have 10 minutes allocated for council to ask any questions they may have. Vivian, you can take the mask off if you like while you're protected there.
That was my first question.
And so good morning, welcome, and the floor is
morning.
yours.
Thank you. I'm going to warn you, I forgot my glasses, so if I'm doing this, that's that. So I'm coming on behalf of Bethel Senior Citizens Housing Society, and thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come. And with me is Roy Thiessen. He is, right now, he's the Secretary-Treasurer of the, or I guess the Treasurer of the Board of Directors, and the bookkeeper for Bethel Senior Citizens Housing Society. So he's our money guy.
Welcome.
He knows what's going on. So as a member of Bethel Senior Citizens Housing, I've been involved in the operation of Heritage Heights for approximately 12 years now. I've volunteered as the secretary treasurer, the chairman of the board at times, and I'm a strong believer in the facility and what we're trying to accomplish there. For those of you who don't know where we are or what we are a seniors housing complex. We have 41 units. We have 8 two-bedrooms, 32 one-bedrooms, and a caretaker suite. We are nonprofit. Any money we make goes directly back into our building. The building is now 40 years old, so it's starting to show its wear and tear and starting to cost us a lot of money to maintain. We have residents in our building who have lived with us for pushing 30 years now. So we've got some suites in our building that really, really need some renovations. So we've been in full operation since 1980, 82, I believe it is, coming up on 40 years. And I can't read this, so I'm going to ad-lib. But I'll take notes, or I'll go to this for notes. This past few years, we have found it necessary to replace all the exterior siding of our building. We've had to replace existing cedar shingles with tin. We just had our boiler system crash on us last month, and we're very thankful that it happened in August and not January. And so we had to look after that. So in the last probably 5-6 years, I think we've put about $250,000 just into stuff that had to be done in the building. It's become very costly for us. But the one thing that we are striving to do now, in addition to just regular maintenance, is to make our apartments places where our seniors can stay. There's so few places for people now that are safe and present comfortable living. So we are trying to renovate suites. We are putting in the kitchen, we're putting in drawers rather than cupboards in the lower parts, so that they don't have to try to get onto the floor to reach into the back of the cupboard. We are also making backsplashes behind the stoves, nice and easy to wash, as much counter space as possible. In the bathrooms, as we renovate, we are ripping out bathtubs, and we're putting in shower stalls that they can actually walk into, and they have a seat and they have grab bars. So residents don't have to have home care come in. They can actually have a shower by themselves in their own suite, which is really major. So I think last year we did 2 suites, and it was about $25,000 per suite. This year we managed to do 1 suite, and it cost $40,000. So it's not a cheap process. We're replacing carpets so that we can eliminate tripping hazards. We are doing everything we possibly can to keep our seniors in their homes, because there's limited places for them to go once they can't look after themselves. So the more we can provide for them to stay where they are, the better it is for them. We have, besides what we're trying to do in the rooms themselves, we have activity rooms for them. We have a workshop where they can go and they can work on projects, or they can repair items. We have raised flower beds outside that they can access. We have an activity room where they can have bingo, and they can play music, and they can dance when COVID allows us to do it. We have to, of course, follow all those rules. They have potlucks. It's a whole little community of people. And right now we've got about 48 people living with us. So it's very important to a lot of us. Our population is aging, and we're finding, I know people who have sat in the hospital because there hasn't been a spot for them at Rotary or wherever. And I know of a person who was there for over a year. So anything we can do to help keep these people at home is a good priority. So that's really, and any money we can save and put towards the building and what we plan would be appreciated. So.
Thank you, Vivian.
Thanks.
So we'll pass it on to council. Questions? Anyone? Councillor Javekov?
So your rental rates, are they competitive with other apartments around town, or?
They're actually lower. Yeah. A lot of our residents are able to access a SAFER program, which is shelter aid for elderly residents. So they actually get government assistance to pay their rent. So we charge, what is it, $800 for a one-bedroom? And I think it's $900, right around $900 for a two? Yeah, so, and then I believe the provincial government has it set up so that nobody pays more than 30% of their gross monthly income towards rent. So they will directly deposit money into our residents' bank account. Originally, we were funded by BC Housing, so we were able to just not charge that extra rent. But now the residents pay the full rent, and our SAFER program deposits to them. So it is quite accessible. And we do strive to have, it's an over 55 building, but we try to go with the over 65 because a lot of times those are the people that are having the hardest time finding places to live.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further for Council? Councillor Parslow?
Well, I've always been very appreciative of the Bethos housing there. My mother was there for many, many years, and so I'm very familiar with the operation, and it's a wonderful asset and wonderfully operated, and she really enjoyed it there.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, my mom lives there too.
Thank you. So thank you, Vivian and
Thank you.
Roy. Thank you for coming in this morning and give us an overview of the Bethel Senior Housing Society. We appreciate it. Council will be hearing from all the delegations this morning, the people that are making application into the policy, and we'll make the decisions later at the conclusion of the delegations under Mayor's business.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this morning.
Next time I'm going to bring my glasses. Although I
Councillor
do keep
Wilbur,
it
sorry,
short.
go ahead. I missed you there.
That's okay.
Did you?
I just have one quick question.
Kate?
Have you guys ever looked into accessibility grants?
No, you and I were talking about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk again, but I want to say thank you because
Yeah.
something that people don't often look at in senior housing is living in place. So good on you. But yes,
Yeah.
let's talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next delegation, 2.6, is Tammy Cook from the Dawson Creek Native Housing Society on Driver House, and so good morning, Tammy, welcome. And the process we're going through this morning is to give each group, each delegation, 15 minutes to give a bit of an overview of the organization and the services they're providing, and then at the end of the delegations this morning, then Council, at the conclusion of our meeting under Mayor's business, we'll go through each of those delegations and make the decisions on permissive tax exemption at that time. So you have 15 minutes this morning to give us a little bit of an update on Driver House.
Okay, do you want copies of these, of our financial statements?
You can hand them out after, but I think it's more right now, if you can just give us a bit of an overview. I think what everybody's been doing is a little overview of the operations and a little history, a little background, and what it is you're providing in the community.
Yeah, because, some of this stuff, I'm just going to read out
Sure,
my
for sure.
presentation. So good morning, Your Worship and Council. My name is Tammy Cook. I'm an Executive Director at the Dawson Creek Native Housing Society, and I'm here to present our audited financial statements and explain why Native Housing requires a tax exemption for a 25-unit affordable housing building, Driver House. So Native Housing was incorporated as a nonprofit society in 1984 with the mandate to manage, provided, and maintain affordable rental housing for low-income persons of Aboriginal ancestry in Dawson Creek. In addition to Driver House, the society currently manages many other houses, scattered single-family units throughout the city of Dawson Creek. Since Driver House's completion in 2010, providing the 25 units of affordable housing for Aboriginal seniors and families. However, this has not come without many challenges. We in the society believe there is a misconception in the community that the society is 100% funded by the government for all our operations, including Driver House, and that we should not require a tax exemption. So then I had put that, then I would present our financial statements,
Sure.
but the main fact of the matter is that we're not funded at all for any money by the government for Driver House. And we have phases for our houses also that, you know, we only are funded, we have 6 phases, and we're only funded for phase 3, 4, and 5. So it comes with great difficulty trying to keep that building, manage to keep it running with only low income coming in. We're usually in the hole all the time. So without me,
Yeah, go speak to it if you like, absolutely, and you can, we're welcome to hand that out if you would like as well, Tammy.
yeah,
For
because
sure.
I had it written, like,
Yeah,
of
no,
of which, do you want
for
them
sure.
then?
Yeah, sure. Whatever helps you do your, provide your information is great.
I think I marked each one that you're gonna have to look at.
Thank you.
Oh, there's no pin there.
All right.
Oh, was one of those mine?
Would you
Would you like one?
mind to my CFO?
Yeah. So I had, where did I have that? At this time, I'd like to present the financial statements. Your worship and council, would you please refer now to the audited statements? As you see, there's a lot of information in the statements, so I'll refer to the sections that are most pertinent. On page 5, this is basically our consolidated income statements of all our revenues and expenses, including the annual government subsidy. So you'll see, is this page 5? Yes, you'll see at the very, well, I better just read. If you proceed to the very bottom of the statement, you'll see our excess of revenue over expenses for our net income. In 2019, net loss was $39,610, and in 2020, our net income was $5,100. Our other previous fiscal periods have been much the same. We have either just broken even or taken a loss. Now, before proceeding to the next pages of the statements, I'd like to describe how the operations and government funding are broken up. Driver House and our other units are all grouped into 6 phases. Phase 1 is comprised of 14 houses. Phase 2 is there's 7 houses. Phase 3 there's 10 houses. Phase 4 has 10 housing units. Phase 5 and 6 are, Phase 5 has 6 housing units, and Driver House has 25 units within. At this time, the housing units in Phase 1, 2, and Driver House are not annually subsidized by the government in any way. The expenses to these phases incurred must be supported entirely by low-income rental revenues. If you turn to Schedule 3 on page 20, we can examine each of the phases. On page 20. This is not an annual funding, but was funding to help the government with expenses. So up on the top there, the very top, it says $5,940. That's all that AMA gave us last year that was for COVID, when COVID was happening. It's like you'll see there was nothing in 2019. We didn't get anything at all. And if you proceed to page 23 of Schedule 6, and I think that's the same. So, again, the third line down, you'll see AMA subsidy. If you turn to page 24, you'll see phase 5 and the final phase that is subsidized by the government. So page 25 is what we get for the page 25, this is the operations for Driver House alone. In the revenue section, you'll see 10,670, which they did allow us to have in 2020 to help us funding for the repair of our boiler system. You'll also see in 2020 the COVID funding. None of those fundings are in 2019. The most important thing you should notice is the bottom. In 2019, we had a loss of 145,000, and in 2020, a loss of 134,000. Over the years since completion, we have realized that Driver House is a very expensive building to maintain without annual funding of operations, while trying to maintain low rent for our tenants. Utility rate and infrastructure charges have continued to climb, so have the gas and hydro, and constant repairs to our boiler and heating system. In essence, the operation of the rest of Native housing has had to subsidize the operations of Driver House. Taking away our tax exemption status should put further financial pressure on the society. In fact, we would argue the society has even a greater need for further tax exemption on other houses in the society without government funding. In conclusion, Your Worship and Council, I believe information and explanations given to you today will convince you of the need to continue our tax exemption status. So, it's hard to, Driver House is sucking all our money from our other houses to try and keep it running without funding from the government. They don't help with any. So it's been a real challenge to be, trying to keep things going all the time. And in essence, our houses are failing. Like the houses, we have no money then to fix the houses if we're using it to keep Driver House going. So it's been a challenge. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming this morning, and we appreciate the information. It's very, very helpful, very informative. So, Councillor Parslow.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I'm learning a lot this morning.
Yeah, I bet you are.
But the picture you're painting is bleak. So what have you been trying to do? I'm sure you've been trying to do. Are you in contact with any senior government agency about the plight?
I'm right now getting a proposal written, trying to get things to help us with Driver House, like to get solar panels. Like we've been dealing with Peace Energy, and he's been trying to help us to get solar. The gas and the hydro bills there are unbelievable, and you can't imagine how hard it is to keep up with everything. So you're juggling all the time, and trying to make some way to keep things going, but it is getting harder and harder to do, for sure. And then with the houses, when we're having to use money, from robbing Peter to pay Paul, kind of thing, it's hard.
So when you say phase one, am I right in assuming that was your first grouping of housing, and second, and so on?
Yes.
Okay. The one thing that I have a question about is going back to Driver House. It's for your elders and families. So does that mean that an elder can have a grandchild live there?
Yes.
Okay.
It does mean that, but it does have all different people in different financial states there. Like there's pensioners in there. There are low-income families in there, and there are also working people there. It just goes by their income, right?
Yeah.
What they pay, but I mean, it is the majority, of course, is elders. The whole bottom floor is elders.
Sure.
So there's a few families on top, or single moms, with little kids.
Yeah.
So it kind of has a variety in there, but it is a beautiful building, and it's kept so spotlessly clean and nice there, and I'm proud of the building and how all the work that gets done there. But it really is the boiler system is a lot to manage all the time, and you have to hire people from out of town to come in when we have problem with that. We are always have, there's a place from Prince George that comes to manage that, but there's a lot of work in there, and I do have caretakers there that live in the building. But yeah, to keep, you know, they mostly are just to keep it clean and so on. And then I have my maintenance man that can go there, but if he's the only maintenance man, it's hard to keep up with everything, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I just really hope that we can somehow manage to keep that going. We want to keep our houses, we want to keep, you know, the driver house going, and you want to be proud of it. And I really am hoping to get help with the tax exemption. And you guys have been great, are up till, you know, always helping us. So, yeah.
Okay,
And
thank you.
thanks for today to be able to come and present this.
Thank you.
Thank
Anything
you.
further, Council? Councillor Jakob?
Howdy.
Hi.
I was just wondering what the range of rents are there.
So the lowest rents are, the old age pensioners all pay $750. Now, the low income mothers, some of them, they're usually about $500. And it goes by, you know, how many dependents they have too, how many children they have. But some of them can go as low as $250, and some are $5 something. And then the working people, it's like 30% of their income. Or I shouldn't say that, that's not true. That's the houses. The working people, there's $950 for a 3-bedroom, and then it's $850 for a 2-bedroom, $750 for a 1-bedroom.
So those are the high-end rates.
Yeah.
What are the taxes on, do you know what the taxes are on driver house?
No, I don't have that with me. I know on the houses, but I don't know on the driver house. 9,300?
Thank
That's
you.
the property tax?
I'm going by memory, Paul, but I believe that's the. Don't have you on this driver house. It's all in, so the 9,300 includes the other.
Well, the other ones are like 120,000.
We'll have to break it down. This is the all-in number that you have is 9,300. Is the tax exempt status present?
Okay.
So we will break out driver house for you, Paul.
Okay. Just one other question. Have you ever compared your rent for the workers with other apartments in town?
Yes, because we do have a homeless outreach program, so we deal with all other landlords, right? We have a really good working relationship with all the landlords in town, so I usually know a roundabout.
Okay.
Because even though they aren't low income, some of those, in a sense, we are still low income. We still want a lower income.
What percentage of the units do you rent out, like for the working people, the high end?
We only have, I think, 4 in there right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your worship, just clarification, the 9,300 is the driver house. $9,300.93 is driver house.
Anything further, Council? Councillor Wilbur, go ahead.
Thank you. I just, to Councillor Javetkov's question, I know for a fact that clients that may utilize other services in the community, so maybe they're getting job skill training, will gain employment, but they'll get referred to native housing. So yes, they're working, but they're still within that affordable range because they need 2 or 3 paychecks under their belt, and that rent changes as their employment increases.
Yes.
So I just wanted to put that out there that, yes, some of them may be working, but they literally just started a job.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the application process with BC Native Housing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you, Tammy, for coming in this morning, and your comment about if you could appreciate how hard it is. We do.
Yeah, I know you do.
We operate some facilities that we're struggling trying
Yeah,
to
I
keep up to
understand.
insurance and maintenance and all that. So we feel your pain. I just did a quick look at your financials. 100 grand a year in taxes, 150 grand in utilities. So it's just a onerous task that you guys have and trying to manage that. So kudos to you guys for the work you're doing. Thank you for coming in
Thank
this
you.
morning. And we will hear from all the delegations this morning and people that are organizations that are requesting that permissive tax exemption, and we will deal with that at the end of the meeting under Mayor's business, and we will have that today.
Okay, thank
Good.
you so much.
Thanks for coming in today.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
The ARC, are they here? Awesome. Good job. So our next delegation this morning, 2.7, we have the DOS. Oh, I'll let Kim do her thing first.
It's a pattern now, yes, absolutely.
But she switches it up sometimes because she goes from left to right or right to left. I've noticed that. Yeah. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome. You ready?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So the next delegation this morning we have is item 2.7. We have the Dawson Creek Youth Center Society as the ARC. And Elaine Fitzpatrick is here this morning to present on behalf of the Youth Center Society. So good morning, Elaine. Welcome. And this morning we're hearing from delegations for organizations on the permissive tax exemption policy. And we have 15 minutes allocated for each delegation. And then at the end of it, we have 10 minutes set for council to ask any questions they may of you. And then at the end of the day today, under Mayor's business, we will deal with those requests. So welcome. The floor is yours. And good morning. Thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you. Just taking a minute to breathe because I'm switching my hats. Yes, my name is Elaine Fitzpatrick. Some of you know me in other roles. Presently, I'm in the role of recently elected chairman of the ARC's board of directors. Normally, Tom Van Spronson would come and present as he filled out the paperwork and did that, but he's been called away on a family emergency. So I'm sure that most of you are aware that the ARC has been in existence for nearly 32 years. We have, over those years, provided a number of youth recreational events, including youth leagues in soccer in the old days, and now we do mostly ball hockey. We also have an indoor skate park, which the kids appreciate in the wintertime when they can't skate outside. We also rent the facility out and do special events. But I think today what we're talking about is a piece of property that we were donated in 2015 just north of the forestry building. So we, at this time, have no intentions of developing the land, as that would impact our charitable status as well. Our aim is to utilize the land for our own purposes. We have run out of space around the ARC, as we have a new hockey rink that was donated to us that's been set up, as well as our basketball court. So if we were going to develop it, we would be thinking of such things as cross-country skiing, maybe I never can say this right, it's called parkour. Activities or mountain biking, maybe possibly on that land. But we're not limited by our imagination of what we might do with that land. As you know, in the last couple of years, well, 18, 19 months of COVID, We haven't even thought about it because we're just trying right now to get set up for our leagues in the building. So I think I've covered everything in regards to the land. We hope that this explains our plans and purposes for that piece of property and emphasize that we have no intentions of selling it at the moment or developing it into anything other than what's we could use ourselves as an extension to the ARC itself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Parslow?
Thanks, Elaine. Good to see you again. So, yeah, the arts have been around for many years. I remember all the fundraising efforts initially for that. And it's been a welcome access point for many kids. The property, right now, the property that was donated to you, do you have any timelines for the development of these things that you talked about and what it might cost?
As you know, we're entirely relying on donations. We are a charitable organization, a nonprofit organization, so it often depends on if we have funds to do things. And at this time, we don't have any specific plans as to what we're going to do there because that so often depends on if we have the money to do that. And I can tell you through the years of being on the board, there have been some pretty lean years that we've experienced, being able to just basically pay the bills that we need to pay. So it also depends on, you know, if somebody steps up to help us out, or if we go looking for that help. But at this time, we don't have any specific plans.
But I imagine the ideas that you put forward would mean that the opportunity for cross-country skiing or mountain biking would be available to anyone who wanted to use it.
Yes, just like our basketball court and our hockey rink, it is available for people to use.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to step out and say at their own risk because I don't know the legalities of that part of it. But yes, it would be not a closed facility or a closed area.
Thank you. Anything further, Council? So, thank you, Elaine, for coming in this morning. We appreciate it. Obviously, the ARC's, the facility and services for kids and youth has been longstanding, and we certainly appreciate that, that the volunteers have given back to the community. So we will be hearing from all the delegations this morning requesting inclusion on the permissive tax policy, and then we'll deal with all at the end of the meeting today under Mayor's business. Each of those requests council will deal with. So thank you for coming in this morning. We appreciate you providing us with an update on the ARC. Thank you.
On a short notice.
Yeah. We appreciate you coming in.
It's a good thing my office is only a couple blocks away.
Thank you, Elaine. Have a nice day.
You too.
Did we have any luck with the others, Brenda? Do you know?
Yeah, through your worship, we're going to have to leave the next delegation at 12:30. So
Okay.
I would recommend that we break for lunch and come back. Then the viewers will know what time we start again as well.
Okay. Go ahead, Blair.
I was to say, I believe that's the last one then before lunch, Brenda, is it? Or do we have others that will be coming?
This
We-
one was the last one before lunch that we just had.
Yeah.
I'm
And we
just
have
wondering-
3 coming after lunch. So we got the David and Phyllis Roque, and we have the Internet Society and the, and Nawakan and the Athletic Association. So we have 4 left to do.
Right. You
Can
just
we
know-
get into the other stuff?
I was just going to say, if you so wished,
Can we vary
I'm
the
sure you
agenda
could
to-
begin your deliberations.
But through your worship, I would recommend that we hear from all, but it's up to you.
Can we do the verbal report from the CFO on a review of the policy? Because that doesn't have Or would you rather wait till it's all over?
Through your worship, that makes sense to me.
Your worship, through you. So the verbal report on that is really about how we move forward
Okay.
under the policy. It has been adopted by mayor and council, the policy as it sets with the exemptions put in place. So it's not a verbal report per se to say, here's what your policy is. You've adopted that already. It's, here's how it will impact under the presentations you've seen.
Honestly, I think that the way these have gone, they've been very timely. I'm not worried about time at all now, and I think we're in good shape, and we'll hear from those other four. And looking at the list of what we're going to decide today, to go through each of those 10 won't take us too long, and so I think we'll be finished in good time this afternoon, irrespective if we're ahead of time now to break for lunch. I don't have any worries about that. I think that just hearing the delegations, people have been pretty succinct, and I think that we've got 3 or 4 this afternoon that'll all be, I would think, relatively the same, and then we'll go through each of them, and I don't expect they're going to take a ton of discussion time for us in each of those this afternoon. We'll still be done in good time. Councillor Parslow.
This one involving a presentation by Phyllis Rock. Do they actually get permissive tax exemption? I thought they just got the statutory tax exemption.
So, Your Worship, our church, they have the statutory,
Sorry?
all the churches, they will have statutory
Yes, right.
exemption.
Yeah.
The portion, but there is always a portion that's not part of the worship service. That can be the parking lot, that can be the place where they have meetings, right? So that's the portion where it's considered permissive tax, and that's where they would come and ask for council's approval.
I'm just drawing a memory of their church building.
Yeah, this, I think.
Doesn't matter. I just wondered, from what I remember of the Dawson Creek church there, that where they're at, I don't know where they would not be permissive.
But I think the service upstairs and downstairs would be the...
Oh, is that it?
The meeting, and then they've got no parking lot, right? Because they're right on the corner here, right?
Yeah.
So I would think
if a basement of a church
doesn't qualify.
It doesn't qualify.
It needs to get...
No, that would be through permissive,
I didn't know
yes.
that. I thought the whole attached.
Yeah, no,
Only
there
the-
is always,
So
yes.
a portion of
Only
one,
the place of worship.
Exactly.
Yes.
So there is,
Only the place of
the place
worship.
of worship is
An office
statutory.
for the pastor. Okay.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
my confusion. I didn't
Yes.
think the basement was part of it. Okay.
So let's break then, and we'll get lunch here as quick as we can, and then we'll get back at it as quick as we can, and we'll be out of here as quick as we can. 12:30? Call our special meeting of City Council for Monday, September 13th back to order. And we're back into our delegations, and we're at item number 2.9, which is the Dawson Creek Community Church and Missionary Society for their property at 1224 103rd Avenue. And so it's my pleasure to welcome Pastor David Roque and Phyllis Roque to the council today. I've got the mic on. Dave, do we have another chair? And
I will get one.
we'll get a second chair. And so the process that we are going through today is we're hearing from all of the organizations who have requested an interest in presenting to council today on our permissive tax exemption policy. And at the end of today, council will deliberate on each of those. And with the process, we will be moving forward with the policy for the 2022 tax year. So we've allocated 15 minutes for each group to present to council, and at the end of that we have an additional 10 minutes for council should they have any questions at the conclusion of your presentation. So welcome. You are welcome to take the mask off if you're more comfortable with that speaking, and it's our pleasure to welcome you this afternoon. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us. So, Your Worship and councillors, I'm not sure exactly the right way to do this, but My name is Reverend David Rock, and this is Reverend Phyllis Rock, and we're the pastors of Dawson Creek Community Church. And we've been part of that church for 24 years.
Just a little bit of history. Our members decided on the name Dawson Creek Community Church when our church first began because it was our desire to serve our community. And to the best of our ability, we've done that. Of course, we have church services and Bible studies and other Christian activities. In the past, in conjunction with the Dawson Creek and District Ministerial, we pray for the mayor and council for 2 minutes at most of the city hall meetings. We as a church also pray for our leaders in our city as well as our country. We've helped people in Dawson Creek with different courses, seminars such as grief seminars, groups and self-help groups, such as how to stretch your food budget and meet your needs, which is a big deal right now. We have emergency food supplies that we can give out, that we do give out, that are for 1 or 2 days until other help can be accessed. We work with different types of people to help them with the issues of their lives.
So because we're downtown, many times we get visitors, and sometimes the visitors make their way in at night when we're not there and stay overnight, but so far there hasn't been anything. It's just because of our location. So we help those people. They drop by whenever, and we have a policy that first time they come, we give them food or whatever for a day. The second, if they come back again, then we talk to them and say, okay, how can we help you get something better? Either get them into whatever other programs are in town or different types of things that we can help them. So after that, if they don't want to be part of something, we'd stop giving them food. But if they do, we continue to give food and try to help. As well, lots of transient people come through our city, and in conjunction with the ministerial, we help people like that too. And because of our church and Corey Lazat, which most of you people know, he kind of organized that for people coming down. Sometimes they're applying for a job, and this is their last attempt, so they run out of gas or food, so we help that way. It happens. Our congregation has been actively engaged in visiting nursing homes, providing services, different things like that, whatever is needed. We're actively engaged. Our history has been, just because of who we are, engaged in different emergency situations. For example, when the big flood happened, it happened quickly. People were sent around, and we got people to help take their things out of the basement so they wouldn't totally flood. So we kind of plug ourselves in where there's room for us. We're active people. We've helped build wheelchair ramps for someone, places. So it depends on who we have and who we have around. Again, our congregation fluctuates because we get oil well people for some time, then they go back again. And so we're constantly changing. When the pandemic happened, one of the things we did is work with the manager of Safeway at that time to deliver groceries to people. And it was quite the deal because nobody knew what was going on. So we wiped everything down, wiped it all down, brought it to their door, wiped it down again, pressed the doorbell, and left. Didn't know what else to do. In some cases, on Mother's Day, different people we knew, we delivered flowers to different people, especially we knew that were shut in, wrapped around with different wrappings so we wouldn't put our fingerprints on it. It was quite comical, but it was fun. Let's see. The church also gives me the time to be the fire department chaplain as well as their CMP chaplain. And my wife Phyllis has just finished her fire chaplain course, to become a fire chaplain, and if needed, because of anyway, if needed. So that's basically it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you for your service to our
Thank-
community. Council, questions, comments? Councillor Parslow?
Greetings. Can you describe the basement of your church for me? What's in your basement?
Right now, we're redoing the basement. It was carpet, but the big flood that happened totally wiped it out, and we're trying to get that back. But in the basement is basically a floor for kids and Sunday school. We don't have that right now because of COVID. Things have changed a lot. So in some ways, that's good. We're able to do that. So we're hoping to put tile in so that if floods happen again, because there's a drain right at the edge of our property, and that gets filled up, and the rest comes into us.
Yeah.
So it's happened a few times.
Yeah, we have a kitchen.
We have a kitchen where we sometimes do
In the
cooking
basement.
classes for people that are on social assistance. Same thing, we kind of help them. The food they get from the different food banks, we'll offer a course and say, how can you make this stretch, or make 2 meals, or things like that. So basically, a kitchen, washroom, a big room, and a small room for Sunday school, if and when we can have that again.
So other than in normal times, if we can forget about floods and COVID, in normal times, how does the community at large, rather than your church community, use that facility, the basement part?
Right now, there's nobody, but we are, or were, at one point with the fire department, kind of a spot to put people, and that's the whole building, right? If a big disaster happens, we pray it doesn't. We've offered a place for that. Otherwise, that's sometimes where we have different meetings, we have different things happening, basically. Again, we're a very fluid church. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, other groups use our building
that's
to
true.
meet in. We do for no fee, like we don't charge them anything because, most of the week it's not overly busy there. Oh, Sunday's a busy day, but other than that, it's not overly busy. So we allow other groups, like help groups, self-help groups, and I won't name them, but different groups that need to meet together. So we offer our facility for them to use.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Council? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for coming to meet with us today. Just to follow up on, I guess, a quick piece of clarification. When you were referring to the arrangement with the fire department for people in need, are you referring to like emergency social services? Should their house burn down and they need a place to
No,
put somewhere?
not a place to stay, but a place to gather.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, because
A
we're not
muster
sure
area
the
almost.
regulations, if they can stay overnight.
Okay.
And again, as I said, once in a while, a few people have figured out a way. We're getting better at locking, or getting different doors, but they've spent the night, and we just saw the residue. So, but yeah, so it's as needed. If people ask that they need to do something,
Like a muster area, kind of.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything further, Council? So thank you so much for coming in this afternoon. It was nice to see you again, obviously first, and we appreciate the update on the church and the activities of the church. And again, we will be dealing with it later into today's meeting. So thank you again for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So our next delegation is 2.10. We have the Peace Region Internet Society. That's the delegation desk right there. Brad, thank you for being here this morning. So we have Brad Melanson is here representing the Peace Region Internet Society for their property at 929 106th Avenue. And so this afternoon, Brad, we're council are dealing with the permissive tax exemption bylaw, and we're hearing from delegations that are wanting to present to council and give an overview of their operation. And then at the end of today, under Mayor's business, we will deal with each of those requests after the delegations are completed today. So it's we've set 15 minutes for each delegation to be able to give an overview and a presentation. And then at the end of it, we also have set aside 10 minutes for any questions or comments that council may have of you at the end of it. So welcome. It's good to have you here today, and thank you for being here. And the floor is yours. You got 15 minutes to tell us about PRIS.
All right. So just prepared something here for you guys. Good afternoon. My name is Brad Melanson, as you're aware. I'm the business administrator for the Peace Region Internet Society, or PRIS. I'm here today to represent PRIS in our permissive tax exemption application. To start things off, I'll just provide a little background information on who we are and what we do. PRIS is a registered not-for-profit society that provides affordable internet access and services throughout the urban and rural areas of the Peace region in BC and Alberta. We were formed in July 1994 by a group of like-minded individuals from the community, and we've been providing various forms of internet services to the region for over 27 years now. Since we began, our headquarters have always been based right here in Dawson Creek, and we obviously hope to continue that for many years to come. PRIS is governed by a board of directors, which consists of elected volunteers from our general membership. We are a small organization. We have 5 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee. PRIS was formed out of a technological necessity. At the time, back in 1994, the region was overlooked by national telecommunications companies, so people from the community banded together to form an organization to provide modern internet services for everyone. Over the years, our service offerings have evolved, and now we offer high-speed internet services via wireless and cable-based internet. Our services rival those provided by TELUS, Shaw, and Xplornet, and we try to reach those areas that they won't provide coverage to. Our continuing goal is to be an affordable and reliable internet provider for the homes and businesses of the Peace region, while ensuring the area is not overlooked or left behind once again. PRIS was founded as a community organization, and we try not to lose sight of that. In the community of Dawson Creek, we currently provide free public internet hotspots at specifically the Kin Arena, the Memorial Arena, Senior Citizens Hall, and the Dawson Creek Regional Airport. We also provide free connections to a number of nonprofits based right here in Dawson Creek, including the South Peace Historical Society, the South Peace Historical Society Archives, the Peace Country Roots Group, and other various groups and organizations. The PRIS Central Office is located at 929 106th Avenue on the corner of 106 and 10th Street between the Dawson Creek Secondary Central Campus and the Canada Post Office. We purchased the building from School District 59 after being long-term tenants and not wanting to lose what had become the core of our network. Since acquiring the building, PRIS has leased out affordable office space to various not-for-profits on a cost recovery basis. At this time, we are currently leasing office space to the Aubert Economic Society, South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society, and Peace FM, all of whom are registered not-for-profits. We strive to only provide leasing to other not-for-profits. We've never taken on a for-profit organization in our building. We believe in supporting like-minded community organizations as we understand the struggles that not-for-profits face while trying to provide important and critical services to the community. While the permissive tax exemption may only apply directly to PRIS as an organization, we do feel it has a direct impact on our tenants. As such, I'll just provide a brief overview of each organization that leases space from us at this time and the benefits they provide to Dawson Creek. So the first one is the Aubert Economic Society. They were formed by a group of citizens concerned about workers in the community who were struggling to find employment. They had noticed that often the ones that needed the most help were the ones getting the least amount of assistance. Since then, the society has been able to provide a variety of programs and services related to employment. Funding is provided by a variety of ministries, both at the federal and provincial levels. Some of the current program offerings are Elevation to Employment, which provides skill training for those with multiple barriers to employment and for those affected by mill closures to find employment or improve precarious employment. Tomorrow's Workforce Now, which provides skilled training for young adults to find employment or to improve precarious employment. Additional programs include the Youth Employment Skills Strategy, Seeds of Hope, Peers Program, Training for Trades, the Bridges Program, Ideas for Success, and Pathways to Empowerment. The South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society is a community-based nonprofit society dedicated to providing comfort, support services, and resources to clients, families, and friends dealing with end of life, experiencing loss or bereavement. They offer volunteer companion visitors, a bed loan program for hospital bed use in-home for palliative clients, provide educational workshops for the community, provide volunteer training and community awareness of issues about end-of-life care. They are supported by fundraising, membership dues, community donations, and grants from BC Gaming and Northern Health Home and Community Care. Their volunteers are men and women from the community with a desire to help others and share a belief that every person has a right to be informed and to participate in decisions affecting their care. Peace FM, they are operated by the Chetwynd Communications Society, and they operate out of 2 offices, one in Chetwynd and the other within the Press building here in Dawson Creek. Peace FM is truly a community radio station and serves the Peace Region area of BC and Alberta using professionally trained broadcasters to produce shows each and every day. Peace FM is dedicated to the communities of Dawson Creek and Chetwynd by consistently delivering exciting, positive, and entertaining programs highlighting community spirit, local artists, and events in the South Peace with a focus on family. Peace FM has a consistent format which provides world news, regional news, and weather every hour on their station. They are the only radio station who consistently schedules artists from the Peace during prime time and opens its doors to volunteers to deliver specialty shows during regular blocks of time in the evenings. For example, in the evenings, they'll actually bring in those volunteers and they will record their shows within the Press building itself, which is then streamed on the radio station. Peace FM is available 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year to deliver sponsored emergency broadcasts on road closures, evacuations, and emergencies within minutes of being notified. Staff members are on call after hours and perform live broadcasts during these emergencies and natural disasters. Press wouldn't be here without the support of the community and the city of Dawson Creek. While we strive to provide quality services, we face our own challenges and limitations, especially being a not-for-profit society. Press fully understands and supports the Council's need to make modifications to permissive tax exemption program due in part for financial reasons. Included in our application was a copy of our audited financial statements, which will show that Press has been running a deficit for an extended period of time. Our organization made a conscious decision to operate in this manner as we heavily invested into our physical network to modernize our service offerings. In addition, we recently initiated a restructuring plan to revamp our entire day-to-day business operations with the objective of streamlining many aspects of our business. The combination of the long-term investments and the restructuring, along with the demand caused by the pandemic, has resulted in our organization recording a modest profit over the past fiscal year. While this information isn't reflected in the audit that was submitted to Council, that financial information will be made available after our annual general meeting on October 2nd, 2021. I hope this provides a good overview of PRIS and what we do. I appreciate the time that you guys have made available to us, and I am here to answer any questions that you might have that may assist with our approval of our application. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Questions of council? Anyone? Certainly, very, very enlightening. Obviously, PRIS and the brand of PRIS has been around for a very, very long time, as evidenced from 1994, and providing that service into the community in the area. Can you tell me, do you have any kind of breakdown in terms of BC, Alberta, urban, rural? Do you have any kind of data, Brad, in regards to that, in terms of how that services that you provide to your customers for the region, and what that data would show?
Obviously, this would be speaking from the top of my head
Sure,
right now.
sure.
Primarily, our core of network is based here in Dawson Creek,
Yes.
but the majority of our members would be more rural than they would be urban. We still have a lot of members that are located in town, obviously, in the city of Dawson Creek, but it would be a smaller percentage compared to the vast majority, because we do offer all the way from Dawson Creek out through Chetwynd, Hudson's Hope, and then we go into Saddle Hills County and whatnot. So it's a very, very large area.
Yeah. I just, so it struck me when you talked about that, and you never think about that urban, rural, and then also to Saddle Hills, and I never thought about that as well as another reach in for you guys in terms of services to customers.
And now, honestly, the Saddle Hills one was another one that really was out of necessity. They had built, the actual county of Saddle Hills had built a number of towers throughout the county, and they were hoping to get an internet provider to provide services there, but no one was really willing to do it, even though they were offering very, very reasonable fees for renting space on their towers. So they did come to us, and it normally wouldn't have been a market that we would go into, but they asked us, so we did do it, and we still maintain that to this day, obviously. So that's kind of how we do things. We're not trying to compete with like TELUS or ExploreNet directly. It's more just we try to fill in the needs that exist.
Yeah. So as an example, over in Saddle Hills, would you get right out to their admin offices at Moonshine Lake, out that far?
Yes. Sorry, I don't know the exact coverage it would be, but there's a total of 9 towers, I think, throughout the area.
Okay.
It's a very, very rural area, so that's one of the more challenging ones.
Okay.
We're definitely more fortunate on this side because we have a tower that we lease space off of on Bear Mountain itself, and that provides coverage to vast area, rural and both in town here as well.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. Any other, Councillor Parslow, go ahead.
It was interesting the mayor asked that question, because when he asked for questions, I had one that I forgot about. It was the regional urban split. But don't you also provide coverage up to and including Charlie Lake area?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, because I have friends there
John.
who have email addresses.
Yes, you'll see a lot of those floating around where you'll see the @pris.ca for an email address.
Yeah.
So that's part of the internet services that we provide.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So Brad, thank you so much. Oh, Councillor Dvekoff, go ahead.
So you show item in your financial statement there, a municipal grant, $6,000. What is that?
That one, it could be a couple different ones. We got a beautification grant, although that one's from Shell. I actually don't know specifically which one that was.
Was it Dawson Creek that gave you the grant?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We did apply for the recent grant for getting the protection shields in our office, and I think that was managed through the city of Dawson Creek via NDIT. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that would
Okay.
be the most recent grant that we got.
Okay. So in 1994, obviously you fired up because there weren't other services. But over the years, it's evolved so that, we've got other services. There's a number of them now. What percentage of your operation would you consider actually competes with other services?
It's going to be a high percentage. I couldn't give you a specific number, but it also depends on the area that we're serving. In addition to when we get into the more rural areas, how many trees are in the area that could block signals to other towers and potentially even satellite services. So satellite while they might claim they have 100% coverage, it's more complicated than that. Because because obviously the wireless waves are coming down from orbiting satellites, it doesn't mean you're going to get an actual line of sight to one of those satellites, depending on where you are. So I can't give you the specific percentage, but it's obviously very high. It's just, is it because of technological reasons that they don't have access to it, or is it other financial reasons that competitors are too expensive, etc.?
So your building, there's fairly good size. I forget what it was there, 10,000 square feet or more.
Yeah.
How much of that is actually available, or do you have a number of rooms there that are available to rent out, or what's the rentability of it if you were to rent it out to commercial users?
Right now, Priss itself would probably use around half of the space, not just for office space, but we have obviously storage area for all of our equipment. There's replacement equipment at all times and whatnot. But mostly on the upper level of the building, it's at least half the upper level is available for rent. Right now, we do actually have space available, so we're actively kind of reach out to other non-for-profits just to see, do they need office space and what have you.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, Brad. Honestly, it was very informative. I really appreciate you coming in this afternoon to give council an update on Priss. We will follow it up at the end of the delegations under Mayor's business, where we'll deal with each of the requests. So again, thank you for coming in today, and our staff will be communicating with you on the outcome.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So our next delegation is item 2.11, is the Dawson Creek Athletic Association. And we have Wayne McIntyre and Stephen Goyer here today to present on the Athletic Association. So there's two chairs there, guys. Welcome. Good to have you here this afternoon. This afternoon, Wayne, Stephen, it's good to have you guys here.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
And we have today's delegations are presenting on the permissive tax exemption policy, and we've got 15 minutes allotted for each group to give a bit of an overview of their organizations, and then at the end of it, we've got another 10 minutes, Wayne, for any questions council may have.
Sure.
And then at the end of the day, we'll go through Mayor's business, and we'll go through each of their requests at that point and deal with them. So it's good to see you. Welcome to council, and the floor is yours, and you got 15 minutes to tell us about the Athletic Association.
All righty, well, thank you guys for having us, and we'll do our best. You are stuck with third and fourth stringers because the number one guys that know everything and did everything are unable to meet today. So Steve and I got appointed. So I'll talk to what I can on the DCAA side of it, and Steve represents the golf course, which is. And I'll let you know how that's tied in. I think some of you do know, but I'll try and be quick and simple in it, that the DCAA has been around a long time, was the forerunner, was the precursor to the city in providing sporting facilities to everyone in the city back in the day, and over time has evolved into, donating land and whatever else to the city to do what the city wished with it, and ended up where the only two properties that they have left are the golf course, and out in the district, of course, the ski hill. Now, the relationship between the DCA and the golf club, I guess is the word to use, has been the DCA owns the land, leases it to the golf club for an annual fee, which if they spend that fee or more in improvements to the land, we give them the money back. That's basically the long and short of it, and the involvement that the DCA has with it. I mean, most of us know that the land that we have at the golf course is probably the best use for most of that land. There is some close to the highway that should we sell the land, and some of it could be done or get, if the golf course no longer operates. Other than that, the rest of it is probably in the flood zone that would be very hard for someone to do something with. I'm not sure if you guys got the package. My understanding is you got everything. If
Sure.
everybody's had the opportunity to look at it, probably know as much as I do about it. You know, I get where the city's coming from and what they're doing. I mean, we're in the same boat. I view the DCA over time have different people as, you know, councillors come and go, DCA members come and go, golf course presidents and come and go. Hey, Steve?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and everybody makes certain decisions at certain times when you have that opportunity to make a decision, right? And, so, we've made that decision since I've been on the board of the DCA every year to donate back to the club so that they can continue to operate. We try and be self-sufficient as a DCA, which is very hard to do with how we're set up, and the same with the golf course. I don't know what else I can add to what you guys got already, and that was kind of my long and short of it, of what the DCA does. And I'll turn it over to Steve to comment on the golf course.
Thank you. And I think very helpful, Wayne, in terms of just explaining that relationship for council as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, so I believe like Wayne was saying that you guys have kind of got everything, like the package and whatnot. From a golf course perspective, obviously, like, we don't make a ton of money. We do make a little bit of money, but from the tax side of things, if taxes were to go up and we were to be taxed kind of like everybody else was, like, that'd be pretty detrimental to the golf course overall as a business. Like, we kind of operate on a slightly better than break-even point. Obviously, expenses, it's like any business, there's expenses that are incurred, expenses that we're not really prepared for, everything else. Just kind of more or less, like, the idea, this was want to know where the city was at with what the tax plan and what everything, like, what the city's plan was going forward with this. Like, I know, like with the schedule based over the 5 years, kind of on a sliding scale, which is one thing, but what happens after 5 years? Like, is that going to, like, jump exponentially? Because after, like, to be honest, like, the first little bit here, these first 5 years, we can probably weather that. Anything more than that, like, that's going to be trouble for the golf course. And as far as, like, I'm aware, the golf course is still one of the only city or properties in the city that provides recreation, green space, and everything else that the city isn't, that the city's not on the hook for. Like, we don't look for subsidies from the city. We don't look for, grants and donations other than this tax exemption. We don't look for city personnel to, provide snow removal. We don't look for them to do kind of like the summer maintenance and all that other stuff. That we are more or less self-sufficient, and it still is a recreation piece. It still is a nice green space. They drive by that now. It's one of the nicer looking areas with, now that things are being manicured and everything else, and the weather's kind of come up. So I'm just kind of looking to what the city's direction is, or what the city's kind of what the go forward plan is on it.
Sure. So the policy really is about establishing a policy of your permissive tax exemption, and so some stuff is legislated. Churches, as an example, places of worship are that by legislation they get permissive tax exemption. And so I think for us, and I'm always hesitant to speak on behalf of all of council, but it's just setting a policy in the future so that we've seen a huge escalation of the amount of money that we're giving us permissive tax exemptions to groups, all organizations. And because of that escalation, somebody's making up that money as the inflationary pressures of the city grow, and you're always looking for, there's more pressure on us to provide those. So it's more about putting a policy in place. So we say we're going to manage this for the long term in terms of ensuring we don't see this continued escalation, continued growth to it. So that's how we've set this policy now moving forward. And it's, we understand for some organizations it might have some big financial impacts to them. So you don't want to say, okay, we're changing it this year. And so we put a transitional period in place, that 4 or 5 years. And but it is that trying to put some stability and some future attached to permissive tax exemption, so that other organizations who come to us just don't automatically assume that the city's going to eat that tax bill that all the rest of the residents and business community then have to absorb in the ever increasing costs for us. So it's just putting that policy in place.
Yeah, like if I had my wish, and I'd like to pay no taxes at the golf course, like kind of like where we were before. I understand that where we're at, with the city and the financial situation here and everywhere else, that probably not going to get that wish. Obviously, we'd love to have that. If there's something we could do to do that, that would be great. But it just, like you were saying though, Dale, like going forward, like if that policy and whatnot is in place, then at least we have something to go with, and then we can budget and plan for that.
Yeah, and I'll use an example. Look, nobody's been immune from this. This council is saying we need to build a strong financial future for our city, for our residents and business. Libraries felt the effects of it. User groups all have felt the effects of it, because we need to ensure that we have a foundation for the future, and that's what this is going to do, is hopefully add to that financial fiscal future for our city and for our residents and for our business community. But you always look at the policy as well, right, in terms of saying, so now we've learned a lot today from groups, and so that gives us the opportunity in maybe next year or the year after to say, look, maybe there's some things here that we can look at to the policy, always improve, always grow from it, but it's put some stability to it. I think, Steve, is the kind of the main thing for us, of saying we just can't add another 100 grand or 200 grand into our permissive tax exempt policy. That money's being made up by somebody, and it's the residents and business, right?
Do you get anything else, Wayne?
So I'll open it up to council. Go ahead. I'm just going to turn the mics on, and I got Councillor Earl.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you both for coming to see us today. Just to maybe add on the mayor's point, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of council, but with respect to what comes 5 years from now, we cannot commit on behalf of future councils. Having said that, I'd be very surprised if you'd find, none of us have an interest in pricing anybody out of the market so they can't provide their service. Our intention is doing this, as the mayor said, isn't to put anybody on the hot seat or make them feel like we don't value the work they do in our community. It really is a matter of, and not just with permissive tax exemptions, but with some user groups around how we were subsidizing utilities, there was just a lack of structure and oversight to the point where it had kind of become an open-ended expense for the taxpayers with not as much oversight as there should have been. So as we move forward as a city, one of the controls we're trying to put in place is to put some structure to it. So it's not intended to undervalue or devalue anybody's work, and certainly I appreciate the value you guys bring to the community. It's just a matter of we do, as stewards of the public's resources, have to exercise some oversight to make sure that their resources are being allocated responsibly.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Councillor Parslow.
Well said, Jeremy. I understand that, and that was the concern more so for the golf course. I mean, as the DCA, you can understand that whatever the taxes are, we will pay, but it will get passed on for sure to the golf course, and that was Steve's concern, was that they will be priced out of, if it, after 5 years or however many times, if it gets too big for them, they will be priced out. They are already, the more expensive golf course in the near region, right? I mean, Farmington's in the district, and we all know that Taylor is funded through the district there as well. So, I mean, we're already, higher than everybody else. So, if we get taxed, we pass it on, and there, there's room. But that was his concern. That's why he's asking after 5 years. We all know that probably not very many of us may be here in 5 years. So it actually is something we can answer. But thank you for that.
Councillor Parsons.
Yeah, thank you. I like the statement in your brief here that says the Dawson Creek Athletic Association has owned that asset, referring to the golf course, for many years. It's the goal of the Dawson Creek Athletic Association to have that asset used to promote social and recreational well-being in the city of Dawson Creek. That's just to show you, that we talk about a lot of things here at council. And in my research on permissive tax, I am of the position that we need to work out a different arrangement. I think this whole notion of recreation is not fitted, in my mind, to a permissive tax regime. I think we should have a standalone agreement between the Dawson Creek Athletic Association and the city. But that is supported by your statement here.
Yep.
There are many golf courses that have such standalone arrangements. If I substitute Dawson Creek Athletic Association and the golf course interchangeably, excuse me, but I think we need to explore that. And I think one other topic that needs to be explored is how can this asset, which is nicely manicured, it's a pleasure to drive by it, how can that be used perhaps 12 months a year, like some golf courses? I know there are certain areas that must be protected, but I think that would be part of the discussion because it would make a nice place perhaps for some snowshoeing in the winter with a whole bunch of caveats. But I think we need to have that discussion and possibly have a more dynamic relationship and maybe this not be even, it'd be covered off in different ways. I think it's unfortunate the comparison is made with Taylor. Taylor and Dawson Creek are radically different from the point of view of its tax base. And what Taylor can do, very few communities could do. Taylor's one of the richest communities, I think, in BC as it relates to its tax base. So it's just it's not a criticism, it's just a comment I want to make. Yeah.
And if I came across that way, Charlie, I didn't mean
No,
it.
you did not. No, you did not.
Where I'm saying it is it's from the perception of the users.
Yeah.
They're saying, hey,
I
I can
know.
go here and I can go there.
I've heard it from the users, and it's an apples to oranges comparison.
So, and that's unfortunately what we're dealing with, and that's what you're dealing with as counselors as well. It's perception, right? In response to your talk about getting together, absolutely. I mean, without saying too much, I mean, we've talked as DCA members about how can we evolve. Where a lot of the is it charter, Paul? Would that be the right word, or whatever? How the DCA is formed, we have to kind of follow that. But we're talking about how can we go in and legally change what we do and how we do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the group would be very open to doing things differently. I mean, we used to be involved in the hockey, and that's gone. Curling has dropped off as well, right? Because we just can't adapt and fit into what society and the social gatherings of today are as to what they were 40, 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, guys. Honestly, I don't think there's, can't be understated, obviously, the value of that recreation to our community and the attraction of quality of life, professionals, people into our community, the docs, and all those folks come, and golf is a big deal for us. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate the work that you guys as volunteers do to the community to make it better. So thanks for coming in this afternoon, and council will deal with this at the conclusion of all the delegations under mayor's business, and we appreciate you guys giving us your time.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
You of all people know how hard it is to provide recreation to a group of people and try and sustain that in everything that you guys do at the city level.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the place. Yeah, there's fine, Jenna. So, have I got everybody? Shaylee's just had to take a call. So our next delegation this afternoon is item 2.12, and it's the Nawakan Friendship Center, and the Nawakan Friendship Center's properties at 1320 102nd Avenue and 10200 17th Street, which is the now Nawakan Bergeron Youth and Cultural Center. And the two properties beside that are the parking lots for that facility. And so this afternoon we got Janet Coleman, who's here as the Executive Director representing the Nawakan Friendship Center. And so, Janet, we have delegations this afternoon to hear from organizations wanting to present to us on the permissive tax exemption policy that council are moving forward with. And so we wanted to give the opportunity to those organizations interested or affected by it to have an opportunity to address council. So you've got 15 minutes this afternoon on the agenda to speak about all the exciting stuff you've done. And then at the end of that, we'll have 10 minutes to allow for council to have any questions for you. And then we will then move to deal with them at the end of today and their mayor's business. So welcome. It's good to see you here this afternoon, and thank you for coming. And you got 15 minutes to give us a little bit of an update and overview of your work underway.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for the invitation to be here. My name is Janet Coleman. I'm the Executive Director of the Board of Nawakan Friendship Center. I'm also a proud member of the Soda First Nation. And I've lived here in Dawson Creek my entire life, pretty much born and raised. So I've been with the Friendship Center for almost 4 years now. And yes, as you said, there's been a lot of changes in the last few years. I think that each of the councillors has at one point either attended one of our events or come into the center for a tour, or more recently the Legacy of Hope Foundation display that you guys had the pleasure to come and see. So that's really great. I'm glad that council has taken such movements to come and be a part of that. So thank you guys for supporting and being there for us through all of the changes that we've had over the last few years. So I guess basically starting at the beginning, just the Friendship Center in general, the Friendship Center movement was started back in the 1960s. It was created as a home away from home for Indigenous people moving off reserve. So for one reason or another, whether it was by choice or forced, as some, there was some instances where they were not allowed to return to their reserves, so they were displaced. Those soldiers who gave up their status to go away and fight in the wars and things like that. So basically, we are one of 25 friendship centers in BC and one of over 100 friendship centers across Canada. And we all are a part of the BC Association as well as the National Association. So we all have a bit of, some different programs and services within our friendship centers, but we all have the same mandate. And that is, creating that safe environment and that home away from home for Indigenous people that are living in urban settings, which in BC it's approximately 80% now. So we also, the Friendship Center, the Nawakan Friendship Center, Nawakan actually means Native White Canadian, and it is our mandate and our hope and desire and vision and all of that good stuff to be an organization that bridges the gap between the Indigenous and non-Indigenous population, or members of the community. And so all of our programming is focused on not just, supporting Indigenous people, but supporting all of the community members that need help. So we're the place that, if somebody has went to other organizations and they've just for one reason or another been turned down, or they're not able to help them, then, with our, the way that we work and our creativity and flexible funding in some situations, we're the yes people. We try to help everybody who comes to our doors, regardless of race, ethnicity, or anything that other barriers might occur. So some of our programming, we have always had our basic programming, the soup kitchen, for instance. We've had that for many, many years, and we've seen a variety of people come through our doors for that, people that are just passing through town, people that are accessing it on a daily basis. We have our crib players that come in every single day just to sit and have that that camaraderie with the other elders that are there. But we serve between it used to be as low as 30 to 40 people a day. And recently, this past year, we've served up to about 120 to 150 a day. And, we pride ourselves on basically, doing whatever it is that we need to do to get that, hot, fresh meal to members of the community that need it, whether it's doing it with COVID, when we had to close and had some restrictions in place, we ended up doing about 50 deliveries a day, to people that either had mobility issues or that maybe were under quarantine or other restrictions. So that's kind of our main program that, everybody comes together over a meal, right? So from there has stemmed a lot of other programming. We have our mental health and addictions program. That's through our partnership with Northern Health. And through that, we do counseling and addiction support. We also run a Red Path treatment program right now. And so it's a 7-week treatment program for individuals that for one reason or another are not able to actually go away to rehab, or it hasn't worked for them in the past or something. So this is an outpatient program where they're actually in their environment. That's sometimes the issue, is that when they go away to rehab, then they're taken out of that toxic environment that's caused that addiction to happen. And then they're put in a bubble, and they go through their healing, and it's great and it's wonderful. But then when they leave treatment, they come back right to that same toxic environment, and it's all the relapses happen. So what we're trying to do is meet the clients where they're at and provide for them the tools as they're in their environment to slowly make those changes to get them out of that. So rather than keeping the vicious circle going, we're trying to break that and make it so that they have the supports in place. If they falter, then we're there to help get them back on the right track. And we've seen some really great success with that over the last year that we've been running that, and that's an ongoing program, again sponsored by Northern Health. We also have our other programs that take place. So I should specify, these ones are the ones that are taking place at the 1320 102nd Avenue location, and that's our long running, our old building that we've had for many years. So the other programming that we work out of there is the Northern Corridor. It's the employment program, and so that one we basically provide any kind of support to the client that they need to get into the workforce. So any kind of barriers, whether it's getting tickets or getting, personal protective equipment, or whether it's even just getting them gas money to get to work, until they get their first paycheck. So we provide all kinds of assistance through that. We also run our WOLF program through that. So that is either women or warriors obtaining lifelong foundations. And so basically it's a 3 to 4 or 5 week program, depending on, we've ran a few pilot ones to see what works best. But it focuses on the root issues of why people aren't able to either whether they're not able to maintain employment or even get into the workforce, because a lot of the time there's a lot of underlying issues, whether it is addictions or it is, just struggling with time management or whatever it might be. And so we try to break it down and focus on what those root issues are for the individuals, and work on, time management and goal setting, and, encourage, looking into what they're actually interested in, so that so they can gain meaningful employment, not just a job. And with that, we partner with Northern Lights College. We partner with, Dawson Creek Catholic Social Services, with Spickers. We have a lot of partnerships in the community and work with a lot of other, Aubert. So, and again, we've had quite a lot of success with that program too. So that's really exciting. So then moving over to the new location at the 10200 17th Street, the new Nawakan Bergeron Youth and Cultural Center. What we found was that our youth program, we have had a long-running contract with MCFD as well for our youth program, but what we found was that there was some conflicts of interest with our other location, with some of the clients that we did serve, and we don't discriminate. Anybody that comes through our door, everybody deserves to have a warm meal and, a cup of coffee, right? So we found that our attendance to our youth program was not as high as we would have liked it. So we began, doing some, investigating and research, and found that the best solution was to move to a different location for our youth programming. And so that's when Peggy and Jerry had approached me over a year ago now, but about selling their building. When we walked through it, and I mean, those of you who have taken a tour can see it was an absolute perfect match. So what we've done is we moved all of the youth programming, as well as the cultural and holistic healing programming, and our main administration over to the new building. So with our youth programming, it is just unbelievable. It's grown so much. We ran a summer program. We started out with 1 day a week. We had 28 kids show up the first day for our youth. It was just a day, like a day camp type of thing. And it was just, we had to split it into 2 days to have the different age groups and have enough staff and volunteers to help with everyone. But yeah, we ended up having 20 kids each day. So 40 kids a week that we were, and it was just a beautiful, there was crafts and, drumming and singing, and I don't know if everybody caught our parade float, but we had some of the kids on there that were in the program, so that was really cool. But yeah, and what we tried to do, our vision for that space was to create a safe and welcoming, friendly environment that youth would feel comfortable and that they would want to come and hang out in, a fun environment, but a safe one. And so, we have our youth drop-in room that, we've got the air hockey tables and the foosball and the big comfy couch, and we've always got, food in the cupboards and Gatorades and waters in the fridge, and we have kids that just come there to just hang out on the couch, and we can tell, that they're there because they don't really have another safe space to go. And we had, a couple of times now it's happened where we had a youth show up at our front door with a couple of bags and said that he'd been, kicked out of where he was staying, and he didn't know where else to go. And so that was, just a beautiful thing for us, because that's exactly what we wanted to create there. That's why we're there, so that people in the community, especially youth, know that there's somebody there that's gonna help them. So, sorry, I get a little bit emotional even talking about it. Our youth programming has grown quite a bit as well. We also offer for the young ladies, it's Power to Her, and for the young men, it's Walking the Path. And all of the issues that our youth are facing today that we didn't have to deal with growing up, the social media and the pressures of those types of things, and they're struggling, and especially with, you know, going through the last year and a half here with all of the COVID-19, you know, it's been really, really tough on our youth. And so, you know, we try to schedule and create our programming with all of those things in mind, and also rely heavily on the input from the youth. We have a youth council that has started up, and so they've been doing some really great work with, you know, just giving us direction on what the youth want and what they're interested in and what they would like to see, and then some of the heavier issues too, you know, how to approach, you know, those things, and how it's going to resonate, you know, how can we make it actually stick, what we're trying to get through. And so they've been instrumental in helping us develop the future programming. But the different ones that we have now, we've had, and we have them, all the programs are mostly for youth ages about 8 to 19. But we do make exceptions. I mean, we don't turn anybody away. We've got a little play area in our workshop room where, you know, we've got some, if we have cultural, we had a moccasin making class running for a few weeks there, and some of the moms, you know, they brought their little ones, and they got to, you know, still participate in the cultural workshops while their kids are playing. And so I guess I've only got a minute and a half left here, so I'm just trying to, there's so much that we do and so many things, you know, so many programs and whatnot, that it's impossible to really name them all and talk about them all in 15 minutes. So, but yeah, the cultural and traditional programs that we do is also very, very important, and we're working towards doing more of those. So, you know, the moccasin making, the beading classes, and then the traditional hide tanning and whatnot, we're actually going to get that started pretty quick, so that's exciting as well. But yeah, I don't. If I start on another one, then I'm going to keep on going for a bit here. So I'll probably just.
All right. Well, thank you. So we'll certainly, it was very good, and we appreciate you coming this afternoon. I'll throw it open to Council. Councillor Parslow.
Well, one thing in the many things you may have left out, that I believe you're also a community shelter. Is that set up?
So the shelter itself isn't actually set up, but we do have a safe house that we've been running for the last year. Because we've had some, you know, red tape and whatnot to jump through, which is completely understandable. We've sort of been put behind in our plans for that, but it is still in the works. And we're actually looking at possibly getting into another different building as well for that, because we have been approached by Northern Health about opening 10 supportive recovery beds here in Dawson. They have 4 in Fort St. John at the Salvation Army shelter there, but Northern Health is interested in opening 10 here in Dawson. So they've asked us to partner with them on that, and so we may possibly be looking into another additional building as well. So.
Well, Jenna, it's hard to keep up with you guys. You know?
Yeah.
No, it's exciting place for sure. Yeah, and much needed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Javetkov, sorry.
So your funding, grants and fundraising and donations, do you do any like fee for service, like for example, to organize a birthday party for somebody's child and charge for it or something like that?
No, we usually, we don't do a lot of the organizing for things like that. We have rented out the space, but it's just for a deposit. And then as long as they have, you know, everything cleaned up, then we give them their deposit back.
Okay.
But yeah, we usually, you know, if it's somebody that wants to donate, you know, that they can afford to donate, you know, a little bit of a fee for that, then we take that as, I mean, that's wonderful because it goes directly back into the programming, right? So.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything further? So I think obviously the evolution of the Nowickan Friendship Center from what we had on 102nd Avenue, the expansion of services there, and the Naukin Youth and Cultural Center, for all of us who have been there, certainly appreciate what you're offering into this community now, and you've done amazing work, and really grateful for you guys providing, filling a gap that was needed. So thank you so much for that, Jenna, and thanks for coming in this afternoon. We appreciate it. Obviously, it's very informative, very educational for us to hear from the community organizations that are providing services in the community. And so we thank you for being here today. And we will deal with these now requests under Mayor's business, and we'll have that decision later today.
Okay, perfect. I do have some, it's just our last 3 newsletters for July, August, and September that has our schedule of events and everything, as well as a couple of pamphlets in here for our youth programming and our general. So I'm not sure how.
You can just leave them there and we'll get them handed out.
Perfect. Awesome.
Can ask Compton? Go out in tin.
Thank you so much, Dale. I appreciate all of you guys very much. And hi.
Thank you. And so that, Council, is the last of our delegations this afternoon, and we now move into our reports. And did we want to have 5 minutes before we do that, or are you guys okay to go straight into them now?
Yeah, through your worship, Councillor Dober is just
right,
calling
we just
in.
want to get Councillor Dober on the phone.
That's 5 minutes.
No, stay over. Yeah. Good. Welcome, Darcy. And so we're now moving into our reports. We finished our delegations. And item 3, reports. 3.1, we have a verbal report from our Chief Financial Officer and the review of the policy and applications. So, Flavia.
So through your worship, good afternoon. So mainly the reports included in this in the agenda are the previous reports we discussed through the year with the policy, the revised policy that has been adopted, and also the most recent report that was present in July 19 with the figures of how the permissive taxes. The cost that would be for every single organization. I did include that Brenda shared during lunchtime this updated, which is a summary mainly of how the ones that went through delegation today, showing what is the total taxes if they would be exempted, if they would not receive the exemption. And then if we follow the policy, how much they would be paying in the first year. However, I would like to address that the delegation, those that are able to present today, we granted them the opportunity during the time we issued the forms and the application for them to fill out, asking if they would be interested to come to present about what they are doing in the community. So those that selected they would like to participate, we introduced their names on July 19, and also we gave the option to council to decide if anyone that was not in the list that should be participating. So that's where we had another 3 instances. So that makes the delegation, the organizations that participated today. So we'd appreciate if council today would take the decision if those that participated on the delegation should still be in the list as part of the bylaw that I will be presenting on second week of October, or if they should be removed from receiving the permissive exemption. In addition to that, we have still all the other organizations that did not do the presentation, but council may still have a concern and would like to hear from them. So my suggestion is that if council can identify those organizations and would like us, we would prepare another meeting like that before the meeting in October, so that they also can have an opportunity to present and council decide if should be in the list or not for permissive tax. That's the proposal. Any question?
Thank you, Flavia. So basically, we will deal with the 10 or 12 today that were on the list. It was identified at previous meetings that there were by some council members that perhaps there were other organizations they would like to have us consider or have a review of. And at this point, that won't happen unless we bring forward another special meeting requesting they come to do a delegation. And then we have till that second week in October in terms of timing in which to get the bylaw in front of council. And it has to be approved by the end of October to get to BC assessment in order for it to be included in the 2022 tax year.
Exactly.
So, Councillor Javetkov?
I just had a question about the applications. When I was reading the information, the pages, number of pages, it seemed to say that when a person applies, they do the application, it lasts for 3 years. If they don't reapply, are they automatically removed from the list?
Yes, they are.
So, do we have anybody in that situation that they've already run their 3 years and we don't have a new application?
I haven't seen any situation like that. All those that had applied in the previous years, they continue on this year. However, we had new applications that, for example, 2 years ago, they requested, council didn't grant, and then they just decide not to apply.
Okay.
So that's
So all of the applications are still within that 3-year period?
Yes.
So do they all terminate at the same year, or do they vary?
No, they would be following the 3 years term. However, what we emphasize to them is that 3 years to avoid you fill out the form every year. It does not mean you are granted automatically a 3 years permissive tax. So this form is valid for 3 years, and we let them know, look, if something major change in your activity, like what happened with Ron Pettigrew, we came to them and said, we need a new form because your main activity changed. But if nothing changed, that form is still applicable for this 3 years period. Okay. And then council may decide, yes, you continue, or no, you don't continue on the list.
Okay.
Thank you. So I think what I would like to do, and so council can consider that, and if we, at the conclusion, we'll deal with these 12. If anybody has any, if anybody has any further ones that we want to address, we'll deal with that at the end, and that will require us to have another special meeting. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, I think there are some additional, and I would like us to do that. As council knows, I have real problems with the policy. And so it's very difficult for me to make decisions around these things, around a framework that I fundamentally disagree with. Today's presentations just illustrate one dimension with the deepest respect to the work that's been done on this. We've had a variety of presentations. As the Mayor said, it's educational, and it makes me appreciative of all the good things that people are doing to support people in our community. There are some presentations we've had today that the limit on the exemption is 5,000, when I think it should be 15,000, and others where it's 15,000, and I wonder about the limit. And so I'm just saying that I find it very difficult to vote on something that is fundamentally, I think, in need of retweaking. And I'm just illustrating, not picking, but let's take the network ministries. I don't know how the rest of you are feeling, but I mean, I was always very appreciative of Network's ministry and what it was doing, but to learn of all the other things that are doing, there's a thing that one area that I would certainly be voting for, but if it's so voting on the current arrangement where the limit exemption is 5,000, they would be required to pay $7,338. No, I made a correction. $585 this year. I would rather want to see the exemption for things like that, and narrative in which you're providing an awful lot of social service networking and support, have the limit exemption changed for those sort of organizations. Sorry to be so convoluted.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think the issue we have is, as we dealt with, and when you brought it forward, is the policy that we have in order to review that and rewrite it in terms of what we've addressing today means that we don't implement this. We wouldn't have the time to bring it back in time for the end of October. And we then, if we change the policy, then we have to go back to everybody who's now applied for permissive tax exemption, because we are proposing to change that policy that we're considering implementing by the end of October.
Yeah.
And that to me is the issue we have in front of us is, are we going to implement this for 2022? Flavia?
Yes, through your worship, I do understand Council Parslow concern regarding to the classification of the schedule, who receives 15,000, 10,000, and 5,000. And by listening to one of the organizations, the Network Ministry, I understood that they are mainly social activities, social-related activities. But I can see there are other services that they are providing that's above social. It really goes to the level, not just housing, but supporting community in different levels, which could be classified to the 10,000 grant, not necessarily 5. So there is opportunity of reclassifying under the current policy. But to revamp the whole policy, then we definitely are going back to the original numbers.
Yeah, and I guess that's my worry today, as it was then, was we've been dealing with this for a couple of years, and COVID threw a delay into it for us. And to me, I think, as we've talked about, if there are pieces that this to council's concern about, then in January, February, as we review the policy for 2022, it's the time for us then, to me, to be able to review some of those things, as we've learned today, and continue to make those improvements to it. My concern is if we start to change the policy, we don't implement it for 2022 because we can't get it done in time and we can't meet with the groups. Councillor Javeka?
Yeah, I don't disagree with some of the comments there, but we've already deferred this 2 years. We're running out of time. We do have an interest in looking at the overall to see if we want to keep all of them in. That's going to be enough work to do before the deadline. Can we just put this on the calendar for February to deal with the whole issue of the, where these organizations are slotted? And I don't think the impact is going to be significant for next year's taxes, because even if they are classified in the 5,000, the amount in the first year is minimal. It's only 20% or something. So yeah. I would like to see us just defer it until February and deal with the whole thing again with the policy. I think there are some adjustments that we are looking at hopefully making, and we're not going to jeopardize this year.
Yeah, I agree. To me, I think that's the piece to me that we have always the opportunity to review the policy and move it forward. So let's, we now have had that Brenda item.
Your Worship, just
go ahead.
So Brenda, I would look to you. We can diarize this under a formal diary issue then, or will it be, I know that council wants to bring this back, would that be a formal issue to put on our diary to say, come January, February of 2022, we will bring back a policy discussion based on the permissive tax? Is that?
Yeah, through your worship, if council wishes, they can pass a motion to add the item to the diary.
Okay, thank you. Move Councillor Parslow, second Councillor Javeka. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So item 4.1 is a memo from the corporate officer, and so our decision today is really twofold. We have 2 recommended motions for each of these items that now we've received from today, and the application for permissive tax exemption from the organization is to be approved, or that the application for permissive tax exemption from that organization be denied. And so that's what our decision is for each of these organizations today. So the BC Grain Producers Association is the first one that we have on as the first delegation. And so our motion is one of those 2, either to approve them onto our policy, or we deny them and they will be denied any of the permissive tax exemption. We don't deviate from the options that are existed. We adopted the policy, they fit into the policy, and we're accepting them as a permissive tax exemption property, or we're not. Councillor Javeka?
I'll make a motion that we deny them.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parslow. Discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Javeka.
So, I mean, it's obvious that, you know, the initial intent of their operation there was to do a lot of research here, and that has changed now. Now, you know, just from the conversation, it's pretty undecided what they're even going to do. They could sell that building, they could do a lot of things, but you know, keeping in mind that for every dollar of taxes that we exempt, the slack has to be picked up by other taxpayers, including taxpayers that are hurting a lot here. So I would like to just take them off the list. You know, they're fairly flush with money, and you know, it's one of those things. It's not really, you know, within the city boundaries, that type of an operation. It's more rural. I think all the members are all rural. So, anyways, I would like to take them off the list.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Parslow.
In addition to the comments made by Councillor Javakov, one of the wrestles I have with this whole business, looking at all of the applications that were, is the public-private side. And here we have 250 plus private entities who form an association, and good for them, but I'm uncomfortable supporting private enterprise, private beneficiaries out of the public sector.
Thank you. Further discussion, further comments, council? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
Excuse me, through your worship, if you want to ask Councillor Dober.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Dober? Are you in favor or opposed?
Yeah, in favor. I'll let you know if I'm opposed to any.
Thank you. Next item, delegation 2 is South Peace Child Development Center. Councillor Parslow.
Move approval.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 4.4, we have the Dawson Creek Community Christian Education Society. Sorry? Okay, sorry. Councillor Javakov, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we deny this one.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Parslow. Discussion? Go ahead.
So this is another one that it's a little bit confusing, and I don't know the rules of, you know, when an organization like that fails and the banks take them back, but it seems to me that if we allowed a tax exemption, the beneficiary would be either the new purchaser or the Royal Bank. You know, it's unfortunate. Like I mentioned before, this is possibly an opportunity for somebody. I think that will probably go for a distressed price. But at this point, I don't think we should be contributing more.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Yeah, I mean, I'm somewhat confused at how something's in receivership, but the tax liability would remain with the nonprofit, not the bank that had it. And, presumably when it sells to whoever it sells to, that should they maintain their exemption, that would fail. But also, I'm not sure if we were to try and charge taxes, if it is Ron Pettigrew that were the nonprofit that would have to pay it, would we be able to get the money anyway? And if it's not them that has to pay it, then they probably shouldn't be getting the exemption.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
I do want to say something, but I'd rather let the CFO speak first, because she may answer the question.
Flavia?
So through your worship, it depends what type of foreclosure agreement it's entered. And it's unique because they are explained, say, yeah, it's some foreclosure, but still are seeing the RBC is giving to us to administrate it. So it's there are like two types, but at the end, the bank may be the one paying the property tax, or actually the current owner before foreclosure may still pay the property tax. It depends what kind of agreement entered on the foreclosure.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
I was going to make a comment, but not about what you just reminded me how some lawyers speak, Well, I think then this decision of this motion will help us clarify some issues that need to be clarified. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Javecka?
Yeah, so I've had some experience with a nonprofit organization that has basically shut their operation down. It is a corporation, so the individual people don't have any responsibility. It's the organization that does. So when that property sells, if there's money left over, the organization is obligated to donate that money to a similar type of a nonprofit. If there is, if there's no money left over, if they're less than the mortgage, then obviously the bank eats it. Yeah. So, I don't think we want to put more city dollars into this operation.
Thank you. Further comments? Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Next one is 4.5. We have Network Ministries Dawson Creek. Councillor Earl?
That we grant them an exemption.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? Councillor Javecka?
I don't have anything specific about networks, but there's three organizations that we listened to today that really struck home with me as being, these are leaders in our community that are just giving her, and it's sure nice to see, and this is one of them.
For sure. Thank you. Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 4.6, we have the Bethel Senior Citizens Housing Society. Councillor Javecka?
I'll make a motion that we deny this one.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? For a second time, Councillor Parslow. Go ahead, Councillor Javecka.
So this organization has been, they haven't been on the tax exemption list before. They've been operating since 1982, I believe, just about 40 years.
40 years.
And I guess they saw an opportunity, maybe to get some funding. Our policy, when you read our policy, it doesn't mention any housing except for care facilities, registered assisted living residents. So to me, this type of an operation, it's it's an apartment and serves a good purpose, and I think originally it was designed to accommodate their, you know, the people from that church, and it's probably expanded if there's not enough people. But it's in competition with our private apartments. And as far as, you know, running a facility like this for seniors, and we have some other ones like Selwyn Place and a few of those, they're all private and they all function on their own, and you know, it's a matter of running a business, and I think that's what Bethel should be doing there, and obviously that's what they have been doing. Now, if they can't keep up with their maintenance, maybe they have to adjust their rental rates or whatever. But to me, it is one that I don't think fits under a permissive tax, considering that every dollar that they don't pay, other taxpayers in the community have to pick up the tab.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow.
You know, this one is a difficult one because I obviously have some great appreciation for what is offered here, but like Councillor Javatkov said, I see this as really crossing some lines. And there's a number of examples. Councillor Javatkov's mentioned one. And so we have public or non-for-profit and private and doing the same thing. One would get a permissive tax exemption and the other not, and that doesn't seem right. So hopefully we'll wrestle with this when we wrestle with the policy in February. And as for this year, the amount is so little. That's why I'm going to support the motion.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Wilbur?
I'm good.
Thank you. I agree. I think, you know, there's tons of other facilities operated in Dawson Creek purely for seniors in lots of cases, and to me, the direction for permissive tax is to help those community organizations doing community work that are there providing that support. And to me, this is providing, I get a direction towards housing for seniors, but so are a number of others privately operated ones. And I just think that it's one that we should be staying away from. Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 4.7, Dawson Creek Native Housing Society for Driver House. Councillor Jawetka.
I'll make the same motion that we deny this request.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Parslow. Discussion? Go ahead.
So this is basically the same situation as the Bethel. Looking at their rental rates, they're from $250 a month up to $950, and to me, they are in competition with private, even though it's for you know, native elders. It just doesn't seem right to me. They're, again, you know, every dollar that we leave here has to be picked up, and it could be being picked up by other elders. I mean, people that have private homes that have to pay their own taxes or fix their own heating systems, or and it's a matter, I think, like, you know, if they looked at their operation and their tax bill is $9,300, I just don't see why they couldn't run this profitably and pay the taxes.
Thank you. Further discussion, Councillor Parslow?
Yes, I mean, I'm really worried about this society. They're supporting Driver House through their others. It can't continue for much longer like that. So maybe we need to see how we can help them, maybe with some advocacy for if they seek it. But it just, again, as Paul said, it's exactly the same as Bethel, but it does also have another feature to it, which would be cultural. And again, maybe we'll discuss that if we can remember all these things we want to discuss in February.
Thank you. Further discussion? Council, you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Councillor Wilbur opposed. Item 4.8, we have Dawson Creek Youth Center Society, the ARC. Councillor Parslow?
I move that this be denied.
Move that we deny. Second? Councillor Javetkov. Go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
This land has been lying there, so to speak, unused. We heard that the ARC has some plans for it, but it's dependent upon external sources. And I think it will be accumulating in value, perhaps, but it needs to be used or sold so it can be used for development rather than just lie there. And I don't believe that they're going to have the capacity to develop it as they described.
Thank you. Further discussion, Councillor Javetkov?
Yeah, we first heard from the ARC, it must have been around 2015, and I think John himself came down, presented to us. And the intent was to imminently get started on developing it for activities, and obviously that hasn't happened. And I, you know, from being involved with these kind of things where you need either money or volunteers, right now both are hard to get. And even if they got capital costs are easy because you can get grants. But once you get the capital cost and you do a development in there, you have to look after it. And that's volunteers, because you can't afford to hire people to do that. So these, like this is basically what it's ending up is, it's 9 acres of land being held on spec, and it's just not something that the taxpayer should be responsible for helping.
Thank you. Further discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 4.9, we have the Dawson Creek Community Church and Missionary Society. Councillor Javetkov?
I'll move that we accept that one.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Wilbur? Discussion?
Yeah, to me, it's just another church. I think it's fits under statutory, and trying to split out the, you know, the basement part of it or something, I think is going to be tough to do. We'd have to leave that up to our CAO.
Just
go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
I think my colleague over there has misspoke. This does not include the statutory exempt, does it? Or, no, this is just the permissive part. So, Councillor Javetkov, you voted on a wrong assumption.
The statutory requires us to exclude the church part, the place of worship. This is only for the additional assessed property.
Your Worship, as far as the statutory exemptions for churches, those are automatic. It is the place of worship within it. We don't see those. It is already dealt with. The numbers you're looking at are strictly for the part of the building or land that is within your purview as a mayor and council to exempt.
The basement, the other.
Yes. So the part of the church that is for the place of worship that they utilize is already dealt with by the BC Assessment Authority. You wouldn't see it in these numbers, if that's helpful.
So I have, I'm not sure you guys are both on, so Go ahead, Councillor Earl.
Sure. I'll support Councillor Javetkov's motion, as confused as Councillor Parslow claims it was. Based on their communication today, the basement, when it was in use, was used for purposes that were ancillary to its worship, Sunday school, things of that nature. Moreover, the extent the building can also serve a purpose as a muster area for emergency social services, I do think that falls within, as they described it, the arrangement with the fire department. I think that's all fairly well-used space, so I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Javetkov.
Yeah, so changing my direction here a bit.
Too late.
I agree with Jeremy. You know, they've had floods and stuff, and I just, like these, splitting out the additional property like that on a church, I just don't think we should be going there. I mean, maybe in some cases, like where you have a big church and a gymnasium associated with it, that is, you know, a big extra value that they're not using or something, but this one, I think we should just approve it.
Thank you. Councillor Earl, go ahead one last time.
And I'd point out to reference their presentation, on the occasions they do allow others to utilize the space. It's not something they generate revenue from. So it's not as though it's detracting from private space rentals in town or businesses are competing with them.
Thank you. All ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Councillor Parslow is opposed. 410, Peace Region, and we have Councillor Wilbur's got a conflict. 410, Peace Region Internet Society, Councillor Javetkov.
I'll make a motion that we deny this one.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion, go ahead.
So it's basically the same thing, and you know, we talked about their competition with existing providers now, and I don't know, like TELUS is a big one. I mean, what's her name? Freedom Mobile is coming in. The satellite guys, and there's probably other ones that I don't know about, but it's all competition. So, and you know, they should, and then, you know, they've got the ability to run a more of a business approach to it. So I think they'll be happier too if they pay their taxes.
Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I appreciate the presentation we got. It was very detailed, but it does occur to me that, and I was actually operating up till this point under the mistaken assumption that PRIS was a cooperative union, comparable to and based on the financials and how they operate and provide a service for fee that competes with local businesses. I'm inclined to categorize them more closely to what the Dawson Co-op or the credit union or the South Peace grain producers, which is to say none of those organizations are applying or expecting a tax exemption, because they are, although different from a purely private business, they are trying to generate a profit, for lack of a better term. And they are competing with other local businesses. So I'm fine supporting Councillor Javetkov's motion.
Thank you. Further discussion? You ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. We can have Councillor Wilbur. 4.11, we have the Dawson Creek Athletic Association. Councillor Parslow.
As Council knows, I believe that this particular recreation should be handled by a standalone partnership agreement between the city and the DCAA. So this may be out of order and just rule me out of order, but I'd like to defer this until making any changes to this particular one until we've discussed that issue.
So I think if we defer it, they're on the list, so they would be included then? They're on our approved list today.
Your worship, each one, each year you will adopt your own list. So we couldn't assume it would have to be moved that they're on the list, I believe. I would defer to our corporate officer, but I believe that's the
Okay.
case.
So but because now the application is on, they presented, they either have to be approved or denied? We don't have option 3.
We only
Okay,
have
sorry.
one, we only operate under a single policy is where we're at today, which is the one that council has accepted.
Yeah. Councillor Javeka,
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
do you have a seconder? For a second time, Councillor Earl, go ahead, Councillor Javeka.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's obvious the value of that golf course in town, and the long history that the city has with the DCAA. I think it started in 1931, when there was 300 people lived here. And, you know, a number of citizens got together and started the whole process for supporting sports. The property is, you know, it's in a floodplain. It doesn't cost the city anything other than the tax exemption, and has a big value as far as an amenity, you know, for the taxpayers to use, and draws people here, and it's just a good thing for us to support.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow.
This one is another example of where I have real problems with the limit exemption. Under the scheme the council has approved, I believe as it's a major recreation, the exemption should be 15,000, not 5,000. But I also don't believe it should be part of tax exemption. So just passing that on as a comment.
Thank you. Further discussion, further comments? I agree with the motion. You know, you get into these things in terms of in terms of what we do and how we do it for and on behalf of our residents. To me, the recreation is a huge component to our arts, culture, and quality of life of our community, and recreation is a big piece of that. The only thing that we provide in regards to this in terms of this support is this $2,000 first year tax exemption. I think it's huge value in terms of attracting professionals, et cetera, into our community, so I'm supportive of it. Further discussion? All in favor? Sorry, Councillor Earl, go ahead.
Just for clarification, Your Worship, you said $2,000. The first year permissive exemption is closer to 18 or 19, I believe. What they're paying is like $2,000, right? I just want to make sure I'm reading that properly before I.
The exemption that they would receive this year would be about $1,900.
Yeah. Okay. $19. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the 4.12 is the Nowickan Friendship Center. Councillor,
Thank you. I would move that it be granted.
thank you. Second, Councillor Parslow. Discussion, go ahead. Councillor Wilbur, do you have any comments?
I think the service that they're providing is invaluable. They're growing and looking at every gap they possibly can attend to. And I think the strongest future we have is our youth. And I think now it can really step forward on that. So I'm happy to support their application.
I agree. Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, this is again just another example of a growing concern that's growing and helping the community. And there's another one that I would be advocating for the $15,000 limit to when we get to it.
In February.
But this, as the mayor said, I thought I knew a bit about some of these things, but it's been very educational this afternoon. Very good.
Extremely informative. Further discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Administration, anything further? Blair, Flavia?
Your worship, there was indication by yourself and a number of councillors about the additional list and really just looking for direction from yourselves as to what you would like us to do on that.
Thank you. Councillor Javetkov?
Can we get a couple days to submit names? I wasn't sure what was going on here, so I didn't put a lot of time in. I spent all my 2 days on this part, so.
So if we could ask council, because time is of the essence in terms of getting, we'll have another special meeting. We need to get a reach out to anyone else that council feels we want to hear from for the permissive tax exemption list. If you can get that back into Brenda, would you?
Through your worship, what we could do is just allow for a late item to be included on Monday's agenda.
Okay.
And that would provide time for council to submit their.
To submit it for then? And then we'll set the meeting, we'll set the special meeting date from there, and it will have to happen relatively quickly. So if council could come prepared for our next meeting, if you have other organizations that you would want to see us consider or hear from as a delegation, and then we'll set that date. But if you can have that information for our special meeting, or our next meeting on Monday. Councillor Wilbur?
Through you to staff, so other than churches, is there any other groups on the list, just off the top of your head, because, okay.
There is on the attachments. Also, I will point out, the ones you see for the churches, the places of worship, those numbers that you're looking at are mayor and council's discretion. The statutory are already dealt with, so they would be in the list should anybody want to consider those as well. And then it is broke down through the A, B, and C as we set out here in the lists that were provided. If you need anything further, don't hesitate to call. But
Councillor Javetkov?
So we just need to submit ones that we think maybe should be taken off the list.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm interpreting it as anything we don't receive that we would ask people to come forward to present. I would assume, which is a dangerous word in government, that you will approve their tax exempt status. That's the position we are at here today.
I would have to agree. I think if we don't have any other concerns or any other issues brought forward, we are going to adopt the policy as it exists with the list of those who have applied for permissive tax exemption. If council have identified any other organizations that they would like to hear from to make that consideration, we would want to have them come at a special meeting, appear as a delegation so we can hear from them. Yeah. Councillor Parsons?
Yeah, again, just thinking about efficiency and stuff. What you heard from David and Phyllis Rock, you'll hear from every pastor. Yeah. And if you accepted it for them, which I was surprised at, to be honest, then you'll accept it from every pastor. So don't waste their time or council's time. I wouldn't, you'll get the same. Although some churches do an awful lot more, but we're wasting the pastor's times and council time.
Never a waste of time to hear from people.
No, if they want to come, they can come. They had the opportunity. David and Phyllis chose it, but the others didn't.
So I think today was very, very worthwhile for me, and from a number of perspectives, and it was very worthwhile. And I appreciate everybody's attendance. Thank you to staff, Flavia, Blair, Joe, Brenda. Good job, council. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Earl, second Councillor Wilbur, all in favor, opposed. Thank you for participating, Councillor Dober. We immensely appreciate your participation today.
You're welcome. Thank you. Or I was